day, but he does. 15 just seems like it's right around the corner, closer than maybe I even anticipate or expect. But we had live tackle football on our televisions last night, so shouldn't be a big surprise that we are just a day ahead of 2 weeks until college football kicks off. Maybe it's that first weekend. Not going to be on games, calling a game, and that makes it feel a little bit different. But does it feel like 15 days away for you, G-Mac?
I go back and forth. It does feel really close. Media days feels like a long time ago. And usually when media days feels like it's a while ago, that means the games are right around the corner. So it does feel close to me. But my goodness, to know it's literally coming up with a big game week 0 in 2 weeks is kind of insane. But I'm excited about it. I hope you are.
I'm absolutely excited about it. I just don't necessarily feel like – I don't want to say that I'm not ready for it. It's just I think now that the kids are in school, I'll really be able to dial in and start getting some prep done, start getting it done the way that I want to, and probably more so that I need to. I can't get anything done at home with my kids that are there. It's just not going to happen. And part of the time is I don't want to because I'd rather hang out with them. But now that I'll be able to sort of lock in, dial in just a little bit, I watched a little bit of the Netflix SEC show that's out. I forget the name of it. SEC University, SEC Full
Unreal?
Access, 24/7
Oh, wait, no, that's the WWE.
SEC. What's it called? I don't know the name of it. It's not bad. It's well done. I don't know if like South Carolina helper coach. I didn't know if I knew much about him. Got to know him a little bit. Didn't know Graham Mertz's personality. Not what I expected either, really, of Graham Mertz. I don't know why, but just not what I anticipated from him. Seems like a good dude, but not the guy that I kind of thought he was going to be after you heard what the coach described him as. But that's kind of getting the juices flowing a little bit more as well. And we keep hearing about different things coming out of camp, what's happening with these teams. I want to start with Alabama. And the defensive line is something that we feel like could be a strength, could be really good, could be more than just solid. Defensive coordinator Kane Womack assessing that defensive line so far through practice for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Obviously having TK back for another year is huge. Not just physically and who he is as a football player, but the accountability that he has in that room for a bunch of other younger players. I think he does a great job of holding that room accountable, of pushing the standard in that room. Beeman's a great example of a guy that grew up fast. Where he was a year ago as a true freshman, at the beginning of the season to the role that he played for us in the bowl game and played it well, to where he was in the springtime to now. This dude has made great strides. He feels like a veteran player out there, even though he hasn't had some of the reps across the last season that maybe even Zabian Brown or another true freshman had. And so really proud of those guys. I think, Freddie and Jamie Mosley, those guys are doing a great job of really pushing that group from a physicality standpoint. These are the dog days of fall camp where you got to kind of push them through. The big guys, they got to be pushed. Right now they don't naturally want to run around the field for 60 snaps or whatever it may be, including individuals. So like the direction of that group, but certainly their maturity and development is going to be a huge indicator to our success.
Is there a certain guy you're looking at, Greg, that needs to step up for that group this year? And maybe not even the name, but a body type, a skill set on that defensive line that you feel like if he comes along, it's really going to push this group ahead of where a lot of people think it's going to be, or maybe where even we think it's going to be.
Are we talking secondary or defense as a whole?
Yeah, he went Zabian, but I think he's just talking about defense, like freshman reps that they got last year. So we're talking D-line right now.
Yeah, D-line to me, it's Tim Keenan. Like I think it's going to be so big for him to have a nice year. And I don't need him to have an All-American candidacy. I just need him to plug the middle. And then I need James Smith to hit his potential. And then if I can get one or two more guys up front defensively, we know what we're getting already with Quay Russaw. We know what we're getting with LT Overton. We know what we're getting with Zebo Latham. Like, we know what they're getting in a couple spots on the edges. But I just internally, that's the one thing. I just want to see some depth emerge. So for me, it's James Smith and Tim Keenan.
I think Keenan we talked about him enough. He kind of is what he is. James Smith's the guy that I think nobody talks about, that I've seen him flash in some ways that could really be dangerous for Alabama this year. I think he
Yeah.
could be a problem for a lot of people, just the effort that he gives, how he plays. Got good leverage, strike and shed with his hands, good strong hands. I mean, he's somebody that has been disruptive at times too. I think Latham's another guy that is almost in the exact mold that could also be a problem up front there for Alabama and do some different things. So we've worried about the depth. We've wondered about the depth. And I don't know, as Kane Womack states, some of these young players, some of these freshmen, are they going to be able to step up and be what this defense needs? The linebacker position is still going to be the one that I think you and I look at and say, all right, who's going to be next? Because you're going to have a lot of those guys on kick cover, on punt cover, on kick return, on punt return. And they're not just going to have to be out there, filling in for Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson every now and then, which are going to need that too, because those two can't go 70 snaps, 75 snaps a game for an entire season, especially with the length of the season that we're dealing with now. So that's still the position that I'm kind of looking to hear about what the other guys have done so far through camp.
Well, I would say Deontay Lawson, I feel good about him being able to give you a lot of snaps. The guy's a veteran, he's been around. I know he's coming off a knee injury, but he takes great care of himself. I think he can give you enough. I think Nakai Hill is definitely a guy that they feel really confident in. Sounds like he's a guy that's come in and impressed some folks there, so I think depth is good there. And then Justin Jefferson now going into his senior year, first time as a full-time starter. I feel like you have three good ones there, but I'm with you beyond that group. 3 is probably not enough to feel super confident and comfortable. You know what I mean? How many ideally would you have at the second level? In the rotation, playing regularly where all right, no drop off from one guy to the next.
I want 4 at least.
Probably, right? I would say even 5. Just because you're going to lose one. You'd probably like one that can excel in certain situations and against certain personnel. You probably want one guy that's like a major thumper and a team that wants to pound it on you, fine. He's going to be your guy. And I feel like teams used to have that guy where, hey, against certain teams, this is our guy. Against other teams, this is our guy. I think you'd like to have 5 in a perfect world. And they have the numbers. They have the numbers plenty. And they've recruited a bunch of guys. There's 3 freshmen in the linebacker room that can all play. But I don't know how good they are. I don't know how capable they are of playing as a true freshman. So I think 5 is the perfect number. There's only 3 right now that I feel real good about.
Well, and then too, I go back, you lose one of those guys, are you losing a first teamer on punt cover, kick cover, punt return, or even on 2 of those? And so then all of a sudden now the next guy's got to come in and do all that, or your starter, who's going to be getting more reps, all of a sudden now has to be the starter there and go get those special teams reps. It can get discombobulated in a hurry. And you and I have both seen a million times when your first teamer on kick cover, probably more so because you have more time there when you're going to go cover a kick, but more so on punt return, punt cover, when everybody's flipping out because, number 8's not in the game. And who's up next? Who's the guy? And he was probably just on the field and just coming off and didn't know he had to fill in for somebody. And then everybody's, it's all of a sudden become scramble drill trying to get a guy out there on the field so you don't have to call a timeout or take a penalty or be down a guy either way. So certain positions affect your special teams a ton. And if you have to get more reps there, it puts those guys through more throughout the course of the season. That might not be the best thing. One guy that we have wondered if he can have that breakout year, because we think he has the potential to be able to have it, as Quay Russaw. Kane Womack, just on how he has been progressing so far through fall camp.
On a team full of freaky people, Quay is the freakiest. You know what I mean? He is freaky athletic, and I think he's a special talent in terms of his strength. You watch him at the point of attack. When we started talking about violent hands, which is one of our Bama fundamentals that we continue to stress and harp on, Quay's ability to destroy blocks and get off and make plays. There was a play against Auburn. A guy came and, pulled against him. I mean, absolutely obliterated him at the point of attack. Those are things, right, that show up on tape in terms of his strength and physicality. But, ultimately, right, it's about knowing, what I like about Quay is knowing when to and when not to, from a physical standpoint, be too aggressive. And I think he's learned a lot last year with the experience that he had. And I think he's what I would call, has turned himself into a controlled, aggressive player,
That's kind of part of the growth is to understand, when to throttle down a little bit, understand how to change direction a little bit better, that sometimes you set things up without going just a million miles an hour on every single snap. It's no different than what we talk about with running backs and, how to have a little bit of patience before you put that foot in the ground, get north and south. And he starts learning some of those intangibles about how to be a better player, better pass rusher, and, some of those just intricate details of what it takes to win off the edge. He could be scary this year, Greg. I think this is another name, and I feel like you and I have given about 50 in the last month that not a lot of people are talking about, that I think has a chance to be pretty scary this upcoming season.
Answer me this. Like, I'm all about Quay Russaw being the go-to guy, but he, for me, was a go-to guy last year, and it never really materialized. You know what I mean? So I guess what outside of the injury that he suffered against Wisconsin, like when watching him last year, what do you think kind of held him back? What was it when you watched him that you said, all right, this guy's got the juice, like it's in there, we can all see it, but for whatever reason we don't get it every week?
I think it was kind of what Kane. I think it's kind of what Kane's talking about. He had one speed. And you and I both know those guys specifically off the edge. I feel like you get more of these guys off the edge. Maybe you get it maybe you get linebackers like this that run themselves out of plays and whatnot every now and then. But it's just basically it's a million miles an hour and then right down the middle of the tackle, and then it's because there's nothing that's been set up. They don't know how to change speeds. You can't really change direction well. This will sound weird to people, but you can't be a good change of direction guy when you're always going 100 miles an hour. It's impossible because you got to know how to set things up. You have to have a little – I think probably the best way I would state it is adding some fluidity to his game. And if he can do that and understand how to set certain moves up, how to set a tackle up, how to get a tackle doing what he wants them to do as opposed to just doing what the tackle wants them to do on every play – that's where I think he can change a little bit, because when you're just that full speed, hair on fire, nonstop guy, a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times you end up right down the middle of the tackle because it's just, I'm just going to go right at him. And it's kind of like, well, hold on, you haven't set anything up. Like this guy, a tackle doesn't have to change his set at all if you just end up doing that every time. And all he's got to do is realize that he can cut off your speed to the point of attack, and then when you have no counter, that tackle's okay. You got to make him pay for setting with depth and start to set with a little bit of width, then get him on an inside move. Then you got to get him setting for depth a little bit more quickly. Then you'd put the bull rush on him and try to knock him back a little bit. So I think adding some fluidity to his game will help him more than anything else.
Well, I feel like just watching him.
That might be the nerdiest technical answer that we've ever given on this show, by the way.
People
are like, what in the hell is he talking about?
It's not that nerdy. It's basically just changing the tempo. It's no different than, being able to take a little off a wedge as you mature as a golfer. It's all the same. But what I'm trying to figure out with him is when I watch him, he's disruptive, but he's not a takeover, or he was not last year a take over the game guy. But I keep hearing that he's a take over the game guy, but I haven't seen that yet. I think, like I said, he looks disruptive, and I'm just hoping now, after a year of quote being disruptive, now he can develop into, all right, we got to account for 4. Like, he can wreck our offense. Because to me, I don't know the intricacies of pass rushing skills. Like, I just watch guys and I see the guys that take over games. Because when I'm watching the defense, I'm trying to study the secondary, I'm trying to study the coverages, I'm trying to study what they're doing up front with games and adjustments and twists and ETs and TEs and stuff like that, just making note of those things. Well, when the same guy keeps making play after play after play, that's a take over the game guy. He just didn't make that many plays last year. He's disruptive, but he didn't make that many plays. So I'm just really optimistic about, after a year of just already being a bit of a problem, now he's going to be a guy that can down in, down out impact the game. And I don't know what that looks like I said, because I don't know pass rush skills. But you seem to think it's possible. Do you agree? Do you think
it's definitely possible. He's got the juice to be able to do it. And you heard Kane talking about the athleticism. He's got the bend, the twitch. He can become a good pass rusher. And I think just more reps.
Do you agree with that assessment? Like he needs to go from being disruptive to a take over the game guy.
Yeah, and I also think last year just consistency in the games didn't really allow him to do that. He just didn't play and he didn't play enough to be able to understand, the intricacies of the position, the details of how to force a guy to do the things that you need him to do, and consistency being on the field is going to allow him to do that. It's just, I think he and Lawson need to be healthy. That's at the end of the day. I don't think they have another guy like either one of those guys. I think some of the other players on defense, secondary, you can speak more to that, but I think D tackle, D end, I think you got some other guys that can be close to that, but those two I think are just different as far as what's going to be next and what else you're going to be able to throw on the field. Weather here in Alabama is still different. If that heat's getting to you, don't let it. Rely on a train. Keep them comfortable with the train at your home because they've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years. And they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. Find a comfort specialist near you at train.com. It's hard to stop a train. Okay, here's what we got coming up for you today. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, right before he hits the practice field at 7:30. We're going to go around SEC camps with Wes Mitchell and Matthew Byrne in the 8 o'clock hour. Andrew Bone has a write-up on an Alabama defensive player that we have not mentioned today. He'll join us at 9:20. We'll discuss that with him, and we'll get you caught up around all the camps through the SEC on what's happening, injury news, different notes around fall practice. All that and more next right here on Jox. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, continuing to take you around the SEC. Listen live, online, joxfm.com. The app is in your app store. That'll direct you to the YouTube page where you can watch us live every morning. Just search Jox945. You can watch us on YouTube at the office or at the house. And also the app is going to give you access to the podcast and the ability to just listen live right there. Kind of wrapping it up with Kane Womack and that Alabama defense. Not just Quay Russaw, Greg, but also how that defense can potentially create more sacks this upcoming season.
That was one thing that, if you point to some of the areas that we had to improve upon from last year, being able to create negative plays in the backfield, being able to affect the quarterback, certainly from a standpoint of creating more sacks defensively. It was something that we needed to look at. So fundamentally, we tweaked some things, and schematically, just created some more variance in some of the things that we're doing in passing downs. I think we're in a good spot right now. I think, that's an ever-flowing, okay, what does this team do this week? How elusive is their quarterback? How do we want to contain him and also, force pressure and those things? And so, week to week, those things are going to change. But if you build a catalog of defense in the offseason, those are things you can kind of go to week to create variance in what you're doing.
Is there a part of that you think sounds like he's coming up with more ways to create havoc and get to the quarterback, that he may need that?
I think now, here's my thing, is with the secondary as young as they were last year, you had to be kind of simple, I feel like, in the back end, and you probably didn't want to apply too much pressure at the second level. Now you can put those guys on islands, man. They've played a lot. Damani Jackson's proved to play at a crazy high level. Xavier Brown has, I think, shown that he is as capable as anybody of being a legit lockdown corner. I think they have depth at that position. The return of Keon Sabb is a bit of an enforcer there, kind of mid-second level to third level, can roll in, can roll out, can play over the top, but is best served as a bit of a headhunter. And then you got Bray Hubbard, who's a good drifter there in the back end. Like, I think you can be now. Like, last year, you had to protect the secondary because of their youth and inexperience. Now, if you want to send a guy and you want to have 6 in coverage as opposed to 7, you're in good shape because you're probably going to be a little more confident in the matchups that you're going to have. So I still think ultimately Kane wants to be able to get home with 4, but I'm sure there's not going to be as much hesitation to send an extra guy, knowing the experience that he now has in the back end that he did not have a year ago.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that kind of wraps up Alabama and Alabama camp, hearing from the defensive side of the football, things that are happening over there. You guys know what's happening at Royal, though. It's easy to pick up your new car right now at Royal Automotive. Why? Well, you got multiple dealerships in one location: Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. From sales to service, the team at Royal can help you find that new ride and keep you rolling when it's time to start searching for your next vehicle. All 4 stores in one location means you can get behind the wheel for a test drive without driving all over town. And when they say for every ride there's Royal, they mean it. If you're shopping for that very first ride or your dream ride, go see my friends at Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia, online at royalautomotive.net. Before we go to Trent Dilfer, who will join us in 7 minutes, just before he actually takes the practice field today, wanted to go to Athens, Georgia. Some of the questions that we have about the Bulldogs this upcoming season. Offensive line, a big one that I think, because of who's actually played at certain spots and shown flashes of being pretty good, have a chance to be really good this upcoming season. That's giving them some real leeway, and I get that. But Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator, just on how he has seen that offensive line improve so far in fall camp.
I think, we need to play better as a whole offense, and, offensive line, that starts with them. And, we have some youth up front, but there are some guys that are coming back that have experience. And there were injuries, and offensive line is about cohesion and playing together, and we did not play together enough last year to be efficient in all areas. And that's the main thing that we've been working on. We've got to be one unit up front. I think all offensive lines have a little bit of chip on their shoulder because of who they are and how close they are as a group. And I think this group is doing a good job, even though they're young, practicing hard and focusing on day by day.
So that's the key. We mentioned that a lot with Oklahoma last year, Greg, and the offensive line struggles that they had. Well, you were having guys practice that weren't going to play because the guys that were going to play were dinged up, so they weren't really practicing as much. And then you had to begin to mix and match that. It didn't allow for any continuity. It's one of the things that I kind of look to try to figure out about fall camp is how many groups were able to just get a lot of reps together. You didn't have the starting left guard miss, the first week and a half of camp. Or after camp got started, the starting right tackle, he was being limited because he had a hamstring or whatever it was, and, he wasn't able to get most of the first team reps, and so filled in. I want to know who was out there the most, and it sounds like Mike Bobo understands that and feels like this group's been getting that so far through fall camp. Probably going to be huge for that offense because, quarterback's young, inexperienced, yes, but everything else around Georgia that's probably not getting enough conversation could help that group be pretty sporty.
Well, I think the best part about Georgia, man, I think that offense could be pretty good. They got great weapons, man. We have not spent nearly enough time on their weaponry this offseason. So much of the conversation centered around Gunnar Stockton, and I feel like, frankly, of all the teams that would be in contention for national championships, seriously, I really don't think we've talked about Georgia even as much as we've talked about Clemson, even as much as we talked about Texas. They are way on the back burner for even us, and we live this every year. So I think they're a legit national championship contender, and it's not so much about the quarterback play, even though I know that's what most people want to talk about. It's because of how good their personnel is likely going to be on the outside, and whether or not their offensive line is going to be a lot better, and they're going to be able to pound it, which they couldn't do a year ago. So I'm pretty encouraged by what I've heard out of camp there, but I don't know about you, Cole. I still think this team needs to be a ground and pound outfit. And I get the sense that you're kind of in the same boat. Even if they have all those great weapons at wide receiver, you still got to ground it and pound it.
I don't think there's any doubt. And I'm with you on the folks that just kind of refuse to or haven't really looked at what this team has. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later in the show. Need to get to a break now. We'll welcome in Trent Dilfer, UAB head coach, on the other side next right here on Jox. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:30, Friday, August 8th. McElroy still in Dallas. We're going to go to the practice fields in downtown Birmingham. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline before heading to practice. I want to start with this, Coach. I was kind of taking a peek at you guys the other day, and the thing that continued to stick out to me, kind of get an idea what you guys were going to be this year, was running back. And I know not all that I saw are going to be back with you, but the few that I did see that are going to be back on your roster again, man, those kids run hard. They're not going out of bounds. They're looking for contact. They're finishing north and south. And I know for what you want to be offensively, it's got to be a pretty good place you feel like you're going to start with what you're going to be able to put on the field this season.
Yeah, you're right. By the way, nice to be back with you guys. Yeah, it's a good group. They've practiced really well so far. They had a great offseason. Losing Lee Beebe in the offseason was tough, but a great kid and deserved what he got going to Indiana. But getting Isaiah Jacobs back healthy, Javon Jackson, who we got in the portal, who's been a really productive back in college football, and is even better than we thought he would be once he got here. And then Solomon Beebe, who has really Lee's younger brother, who you saw last year a little bit, some kick return duties and scored a touchdown late in the season, has really come on and elevated his game. So we feel confident that position. It's been one of the strengths of camp so far and of the offseason. So it's a legacy here to run the football. It's part of UAB's identity. Started with Bill Clark and Brian Vincent and Henley Brigham, who all were steadfast about running the football, and we're the same way, and we have the same quality of back that's been here for a long time.
Coach, Javon's a Decatur kid. I've heard coaches over time since this portal started the way that it is now. I can remember Kane Womack at South Alabama, Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State, all telling us, hey, we keep in touch with these guys because when they do get in the portal, we're kind of hoping they want to get back closer to home, and that gives us an advantage. Would this be sort of one of those stories?
Yeah, no doubt. And Eli Ennis, our inside linebacker, is another one. DeMarcus Smith. We have other players that we're really counting on this year that are went off somewhere else, but are from this great state, missed home, want to be closer to their parents, their friends, their fans. I think they realize they go taste the apple somewhere else and realize it's better here in Bama, and come back and want to be part of Alabama football. I think it's a distinct advantage we have here in the state, where kids want to come back and play football where they grew up.
Looking at kind of the emphasis heading into the fall camp period, if there's one thing that you feel like is the number one priority for you, what would you say that is as you're now heading into week number 2?
Finding out who breaks and who's unbreakable. It's 2 years of just finding, breaking in the wrong moments, breaking down mentally, breaking down physically, breaking down emotionally. We've had horrible emotional regulation discipline in 2 years, breaking down technically. Like if you go back, which I did, and just watched every snap of every game of these 2 miserable years, you just see a lot of breaking down. So it was pretty simple to me when we came back in the winter was we got to identify those that we can trust that won't break in big moments. I think one of the great things about college football is the offseason. One of the worst things about college football is the offseason. It's great because you get a lot of work, get a lot of camaraderie, get a lot of building. We have a great strength coach and leader, so we do a lot of cool things. The bad part about it is you get fooled because it's underwear. Nobody's tackling, nobody's finishing, nobody's hitting, nobody's doing the football things that you actually have to do to win football games. Nobody's having high-pressure moments where they got to think clearly. So we try to create as many things as possible to, create the pressure that it takes to play in a game physically, mentally, emotionally, and see which ones could grow in the midst of that instead of breaking down. So that's really been our focus. There's a lot of other technical things and football things, but none of those things matter if you're gonna break.
I don't think there's any doubt. It's one of the things I was watching that Netflix documentary on SEC football last night, and we've heard a couple of coaches talking about it through camp, is just the kids are more sensitive this day and age. Bottom line, like no nice way to say it, no two ways around it. It's just kind of is what it is. How do you continue to try to adjust to that with the personality of today's college football player?
Don't put me on my pulpit, but I think it's not just kids, right? I think everybody. We're in a culture where feelings determine action too often, and part of maturity and wisdom is just choosing best over how you feel. There's a lot of things we have to do as adults, as parents, as productive members of society, impactful humans, that doesn't feel good. Like, you don't want to do it, but you have to do it because it's better for the people around you. It's better for you. And we've really stressed that. That's part of the breaking. What we identified as why most of them break is because they get in their feelings instead of just choosing to do what is best. What is best for them many times. It's best to have good habits. It's best to eat well. It's best to hydrate. It's best to try your hardest. It's best to go to class. It's best to study. Like, I can go on and on and on. But you don't always feel like it. Many times you feel like binging Netflix, or you feel like getting on your Instagram feed, or you feel like self-medicating, or you feel like whatever. That doesn't mean it's best. And we're trying to get these kids to understand, don't let their feelings rule them. Let best decisions rule them. And the more we emphasize it, a lot of eye rolling, a lot of "you're crazy, coach," but you keep holding them to that standard, and over time you start seeing them choose best over their feelings and break less.
Well, I would think that with your background, having played and won a Super Bowl, it feels like to me you would be in a really good spot to be able to illustrate that message of going the extra mile and doing what you need to do. I do want to ask you about Jalen and how he's progressed this offseason. I know you, talking to you a couple months back, you're really pleased with where he's at and how he continues to kind of take ownership. Where are we at with the quarterback spot and how he's processing things right now?
Yeah, I want to go back real quick to how you led to that, and I'll answer the question, Greg. But it's not. I think sometimes most of these kids weren't born when I played. Most of them weren't. They have no idea. So that's not that big of a deal. What is a big deal, though, is to give them 84 years of professional coaching experience on the staff. So it's not just me. It's multiple guys on the staff have been in professional football and been where they want to be. I gave him a stat yesterday in offense. I was bragging on a couple of our coaches because, coaches can't brag about their pelts on the wall, their street cred. But I said, listen, between your quarterbacks coach, offense coordinator, wide receiver coach, you have $450 million earned in the NFL of guys they've coached. Now, just wrap your brain around that. Not to be earned, because they're probably going to earn another $300 million. But like to this day, guys they have coached $450 million. Yeah, a lot of that's the talent of those players. But you don't think that they had something to do with it? You don't think Alex Morton said something to do with Tua and Mac and Jalen Hurts? You don't think Kevin Garver had something to do with Larry Fitzgerald, who calls him all the time, by the way, or J.J. Nelson or Chris Godwin? These guys know what they're talking about. So that has been something that has really been impactful, is when our coaches are echoing the same message that I'm echoing, and these players are like, I should probably listen because they do know what's best for me. They've seen people reach the dreams that I want to reach and help them get there. Maybe they can help me too. And Jalen fits into that. I think Jalen, we've had to speed up. We've had to create multiple seasons for him within the off season, pressure-packed moments, high-intensity things, because he just hasn't played a lot of college football. He's got 8 career starts under his belt. We're expecting him to play like he's had 40 career starts under his belt. So his willingness, his preparation, his engagement, all those things are an A+. Camp has been a C+. I think it's been It's been solid. I think his instincts have gotten better. I think he's more natural playing the position. There was some stiffness last year. There was some awkwardness in how he played it. That's kind of going away. But as I've told him, you're never going to reach the standard, the expectation of Morton Knight. It's just too high. We expect perfection. But just keep preparing that way, and then game day will unleash you and let you loose, and we'll see what happens.
Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Where has your team excelled the most? What has satisfied you the most so far through fall camp? And like you said, a lot of it can be fool's gold because not a ton of time in actual pads, knocking each other around just yet.
I think their approach, they're a group that comes ready to prepare, whether that's a meeting room, whether that's a practice. Not a whole lot of complaining and moaning and, all that stuff. They get that we don't know who we are yet, that we have a lot to prove, we have a lot to earn, very little entitlement. You have guys that started at a lot of programs around the country that came here that make a decent amount of money, but they're not starters yet. They're getting second team reps, having to earn it, and they're not really complaining about it. So now that can change, when we start, one spotting more stuff and there's not as many reps and you see your reps go down. But to this point, I've appreciated the approach. There's flashes in every area that people want to know about that look really good. But our issue is still this, and I harped on this to the coaches. I said, hey, quit, smelling rainbows and rose petals. We have a high ceiling. But we have the last 2 years. And if you watch us play, we make explosive plays on both sides of the ball. The problem is our floor is so dang low. Stupid penalties, undisciplined, gash in the run game, sacks, turnovers, drop balls, all the things to get you beat. We do all that. We've done all those things. So I'm far more concerned with raising the floor. I'm maniacal every single day. My coaches are just sick of hearing me say it. I don't care about the good stuff. I want to see the bad stuff get better. The bad stuff has to get exponentially better before we think we can beat anybody. Alabama State or Army or Navy or North Texas, whoever it is. We'll beat ourselves. We got to figure out how not to beat ourselves.
Defensively, with so many new pieces, new voice in the room, all the things that you're trying to accomplish and improve, it feels like turnovers have to be number one. Just looking at everything, it feels like that has to be number one. How do you make that? And we've heard it for years. We have balls around the facility. Guys are carrying balls or knocking them out when they're walking down the hallway. Whatever it is, whatever gimmick you have to do to kind of make sure that that's continued to be pounded into their head. Turnovers. We need more to improve off the 13 from just a year ago. What are you guys doing specifically to address that? And has it been effective so far in camp?
It has. It's a great question, Greg. I don't know if you guys felt this way in your playing days, but training camp is a hard time to judge it because you're pissed off if the offense turns it over. Right. But you're excited if the defense turns them over. So I'll give you a couple examples. Yesterday we run a outbreaker post concept, right? And Jalen, our receivers running 4-4. Jalen throws it 68 yards down the middle of the field, straight dime. And Reek Watson, who is the fastest guy on our team, is getting beat by about a step and accelerates and picks the ball off like bread baskets it. And the receiver has his hands out because he thinks he's going to run through it and, walk in. And I'm like, that's not – we're watching the film with Jalen. We're like, I would have thrown it too. I don't know what to say. I would have thrown the exact same ball, right, if I could. And the receiver, he's doing his job. Heck of a play by Reek. That's a big-time play. Jeremiah Vessel, a couple days ago, we're running an in-breaker, and he gets stuck in transition, and kind of instinctively sees that's an in-breaker and lays his body horizontal to the ground, reaches back, and picks off a ball inside. And everything said to throw the football, right? So it's like you can't tell the quarterback not to make the throw. Like, anticipate the window, throw it in the window. You just had an exceptional play made by the nickel. Roy Williams has punched out 3 balls. And these aren't like just get your hand on the ball. These are like the peanut punch. And, called him out in the meeting room and was able to get him a little NIL deal because of it. Denver Warren a couple days ago in practice is getting washed. He's double teamed, and he spins out of the double team. It's a live period. Spins out of the double team and dives horizontally to punch out the ball on a running back and gets it on the ground. So, like, those things are really encouraging. Now, the problem is, why'd the ball come out of the running back's hand? You know what I mean? Why didn't the receiver on the post fight for the ball a little bit more? So, like, for every good, you can look at some bad too and be like, we got to stop turning it over. But, man, that's pretty cool that the defense is turning us over on some exceptional plays. So, obviously, it's been a point of emphasis. It's highly competitive. You see the defense scooping and scoring every time the ball hits the ground. Steve Russ is just absolutely maniacal about, excuse my language here, but the motto is get the damn ball out. So that's been encouraging. But again, I am so skeptical right now because we haven't played a game and I haven't seen the live bullets yet. I see some good. I still see some bad. We have a ton of work to do before I'll feel comfortable getting ready to play Alabama State, who's going to be a really good football team.
Coach, we always appreciate the time. I know you got to get on the practice field here in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We love talking football with you. Let's do it again soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
There you go. Trent Dilfer, UAB head football coach, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Great insight to some of the individual players there. Great insight into how practice going so far and how he's managing today's college football players. Again, we love talking football with Coach Dilfer. Always great. All right, when we come back, I want to go back to, we mentioned some of the weaponry there for UAB, some of that Georgia weaponry that we were referencing. You're going to have to wait for that conversation, but one thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of to the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day in several locations to make it easy on you. In Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and Trustful, they can get you in the same day. They can see you on Fridays and Saturdays. They can accept patients of all ages, and most insurance plans are accepted. Call them today for that appointment. The routine appointments now include free teeth whitening. So call them at 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental, 874-9605.
Where should Georgia's weapons rank in the SEC? We'll discuss that next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking weaponry around the SEC, around college football. One that we mentioned earlier in the show that doesn't feel like it's getting enough love are the Georgia Bulldog weapons. And you want to get out of the gate quickly if you are Mike Bobo in this Georgia offense, and they'll have the ability to do that with some of the players that are going to be surrounding quarterback Gunnar Stockton. Mike Bobo yesterday after practice discussing the emphasis on early starts so far with his offense through fall camp.
You know, anytime you start a football game, you want to start fast. A lot of it was execution issues. And then sometimes, to be quite frank, it was a little bit being conservative in those situations. And then the other side of it, the teams we played were pretty good on defense and, you know, stopped us early in games. But that's been a big point of emphasis of ours. There's several of them, but starting fast is one of them. That's something we definitely got to improve on.
So they'll be able to get out of the gate quickly, GMAC, with some of the weapons that are going to be there inside this offense. And we have discussed a few of them at times here on the show, but haven't really gone in depth like we have with some other teams. And it deserves that conversation because when you start looking at how you're going to, if they get solid offensive line play and the quarterback is a little more than serviceable, there shouldn't be a lot of heavy lifting, specifically if they take that mentality, like you mentioned, of being more of a ground and pound football team. Dylan Bell's back. He's played running back, receiver. They'll move him. One of the better football players on this team. One of the things that pleased me most, what I heard from Kirby Smart earlier in this fall camp, was bringing up London Humphreys, and that he can be a guy that helps them because we've seen him do some great things at Georgia, very limited. We saw him do some great things at Vandy, kind of limited, but he can play, and he can be a guy that can give you some stuff over the middle. He's got a little bit of catch and run juice, very reliable. Then you get Zachariah Branch, who comes in from USC, a deep threat that has a ton of speed, that's going to be able to help you vertically. You're going to have to respect what he can do. Obviously, he can help you in some of the quick game. Colby Young, we've seen him in a Georgia uniform, extremely solid, obviously can go. And then you go to A&M and get Noah Thomas, who gives you that sort of Anthony Mix at Auburn, Johnny Wilson type frame at Florida State of just looks like a basketball player on the football field and gives you a different body. And then adding gone to the tight end group with Lucky Lawson and Oscar Delp both being back. It's a loaded room of pass catchers for this Georgia offense, and I'm with you. I don't think it's gotten near enough run that it deserves this offseason.
Well, look, and it's fair because it wasn't necessarily like the splashiest pickups ever. But if you think about fit, they needed some length, a guy that could win on the outside. They bring back Colby Young that you referenced, who was supposed to be their go-to guy last year and was lost for the season. You now have Noah Thomas, who can win those contested catch balls in the red zone. You bring back both tight ends. Both are excellent. So that's a good spot to be in. You also have, I think, the Zachariah Branch pickup. While it wouldn't work for some, I think it works great for what they want him to be, like in that Arian Smith role. He's not going to be a guy that's going to just route you to death. He's going to be a guy that catches it and runs it. He's an elite kick returner. He's elite in space. So they're going to get him the ball and let him go to work. And I think with some of their short screens added around the line of scrimmage, with some of their pop passes, with some of their tunnels, like that's a great role for him to fill. And then you still have solid pieces back like Dylan Bell. So I think it's a top 3 or 4 group in the league when you take everything into consideration.
I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, who sticks out as just glaringly better? Like let's put them up against Auburn. Auburn can't touch them in the tight end room. Texas, I mean, I don't think they're hands down that far ahead or even definitively ahead of where Georgia is. Texas might have the edge in running back depth, but I mean, it's the skill position for Georgia going into the season is on par with anybody else in the league, and it hadn't gotten enough discussion. Good thing we'll be back next to discuss it more, as well as South Carolina with Wes Mitchell next right here on Jox. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. Hour number 2 underway right here, Friday, August 8th, 8 a.m. on Jox. Listen online, joxfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android, can download that for free. That directs you to all the podcasts. That directs you to YouTube as well. A lot of different ways that you can tune in. Your CBD store wants to help you out in a lot of different ways. If you need a better night's sleep, if you need to wake up, feel refreshed, if you need energy throughout the day, better focus throughout the course of the day, your CBD store can help with that. Largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. If you have arthritis, if you have anxiety, they have products that can help with both. And even your pet arthritis or anxiety, they can help with that. Skincare, gut health for your pets as well. They've helped multiple pets in my household. They can do the same for yours at your CBD store. Here's what you're going to do. Go by one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trussville just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, let's go to Wes Mitchell. Talk South Carolina camp so far and how things are progressing. Wes, first off, how healthy are the Gamecocks so far through fall camp?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. I would say so far so good. You know, this is always, I would say, about a weekend is the point in camp where you start to hear, hey, this guy's dinged up, this guy's banged up. Obviously, you're always just hoping you don't hear about the big one. Has anybody, gotten seriously injured? From what we understand, and Shane hasn't spoken in a couple of days, but as of right now, as far as we know, they are pretty healthy so far.
Looking at the defense, and look, all of my questions surround the defense. I feel like the offense will be really good. I have no worries on that side of the ball, assuming Lenore Sellers is healthy. But the defense, there are so many pivotal pieces to replace. Where are we at right now as far as solidifying that starting 11? And what does the ceiling look like for that group across the board?
Yeah, I think that's where everybody's going to start when they talk about this team. Interestingly enough, even though Nikki Mawari is probably the single best just player/athlete, although D-Knight may argue with you there that they have to replace, I actually think that they're in a good spot in the secondary. They bring back a lot of guys. They bring back a lot of experience. They brought in Brandon Cisse, who was a starter at NC State. Torian Gray does as good a job as anybody, so who is their defensive backs coach. I think they're in a good place there. I think you have to talk about the linebackers and really the interior of that defensive line are the areas where I think are the greatest concern. Now, internally, they're going to have to go prove it, obviously, but internally they actually, I think, have started to feel pretty good about this linebacking core, kind of being able to reload there. They brought in a couple of transfers. They have a kid, J.R. Johnson, who was a true freshman last year that they expect to take a step. He's a freak athlete. He is kind of in that Bam Martin Scott, Demetrius Knight mold in terms of athleticism. So I think there's some quiet confidence actually with that linebacking group. To me, if you're really going to focus in and dial in on a spot that you say is still a question, it's those defensive tackles where you have to replace a TJ Sanders, replace a Boogie Huntley, replace a Tonka Hemingway. Those guys did so much for so long for South Carolina that I think that's where – I'm not going to say they can't get it done, but I definitely think there's going to be a little step back there. And, overall, when you talk about the upside, I think the question is can this defensive line just as a whole be as havoc-producing as that group was last year? That was kind of what made it all click for them. I think, that's probably where I say their upside might be just a little bit limited compared to what it was last year.
We're visiting with Wes Mitchell, talking South Carolina football on the Higginbotham Hotline. I'm one that kind of feels like they can, just because they have so many bodies that have been on that defense, in that scheme for such a long period of time. And then, too, what I think is most intriguing about South Carolina right now, Wes, is we could go back the last 3-4 years. Shane Beamer's just flat out done more with less in the portal than anybody else in the league. I mean, there have been multiple guys that have started games, made big plays, been big players that we had no discussion about before the season. Is there a guy or two that may be sort of looking like he's going to fill that role again for the Gamecocks this year?
Yeah, I thought you might ask me that, Cole. And so let me first of all give you a guy on offense who is the perfect example of that, and that's Boaz Stanley. This is a kid who was at Troy last year, and, we – kind of fun story. We got word, all right, this guy might be visiting South Carolina. we start asking around. I Google his name, try to get some background. It hadn't even been reported that he had entered the portal. He was so kind of low-key of a guy. We find out, yeah, he's been in the portal for, I think it was a few weeks at the time, which is like 10 years in portal years. And, he visits South Carolina, commits like the day he's on campus, signs, and next thing you know, he enrolls and basically is the huge favorite to be the starting center this year. So he's going to take over that spot on offense. I think he just kind of fits that mold you're talking about. They really just kind of know what they're looking for, and then they don't really seem to worry about the PR of, hey, is this a 4-star, highly recruited guy or not? On defense, I wouldn't say it's quite in the same realm as going to find a Demetrius Knight at Charlotte. But Sean Murphy is a guy who was highly, highly recruited out of high school, out of Virginia, but he went to Alabama, then he transferred to Florida State. He transferred out of Florida State. And really just in terms of attention and his kind of recruiting stock and all that, it had kind of fallen off. And he's really come in and impressed. I think he's a good fit for what Clayton White likes to do at that linebacker position, has actually brought some leadership ability. They really like these guys that kind of have an extra level of maturity. Clayton White always talks about, hey, D-Knight's married with 2 kids. And, Sean is either married or engaged and just kind of is at a next step of his life. And so Boaz, same thing, actually. He got, I think, married this past offseason. So they really like these guys that have kind of their life a little bit more at a further along stage off the field as well, I feel like.
What about the receivers? That was a group that was hindered last year at times with injury and inconsistency. Are they trending in the right direction there? And in particular, where's Nick Harbor with his development after taking the year off finally from running track?
Yeah, I think that is the spot where the perception of what South Carolina is, maybe nationally or regionally at wide receiver, is the most different compared to kind of where I think it is here locally. Like I think the receiving corps actually has a decent chance to go from a big question mark last year to being potentially a strength. You start with Harbor. I don't think maybe he's ready to go out there and catch 70 balls like Alshon Jeffrey did back in the day. But I do think just giving up track, which took up so much of his time in the spring, people forget this past spring was the first ever spring practice he's actually been able to go through and develop at South Carolina. So I think that's been big for Nick. I do think it'll still be a little bit more of a receiver by committee, but you look at the guys they bring back. Jared Brown, I think, has a chance to have a good year. Mazio Bennett should take another step. Vandrevius Jacobs, who was a transfer in from Florida State last offseason, he's had a really good offseason this year. And then all of these freshmen have come in. They brought in 6 all kind of highly recruited freshman wide receivers. They're all talented kids. They're up, they're down, but they're all pushing each other. They all have big upsides. They got a kid, Brian Rowe, who's kind of a smaller but speedy 41-inch vertical kind of slot guy that has really impressed since he arrived. Donovan Murph is another freshman wide receiver I think has a chance. So they're still a little bit young when you get behind the top kind of 3 or 4 guys, but these young kids have really come in and just pushed the guys ahead of them. So I think they kind of quietly feel good about that receiving core as well. And I don't really think it's a worry at all here, even though if you're kind of outside looking in, you're probably looking at last year and saying, man, are they going to have enough weapons around Lenore Sellers?
I don't think the weaponry and its potential is a massive question. I just think it's more of who's going to step up and who's going to be able to help make those changes. What part of Lenore's game do you feel like can make the biggest leap, possibly will make the biggest leap this season?
Yeah, if you talk to Lenore's, the big thing with him has just been kind of his anticipation. I mean, I think this is a kid, like, there's this narrative around here. I think it's just kind of a Clemson fan thing almost of like, oh, this guy's a running back playing quarterback, which if you watch more than one drive of him, you'll realize that's absolutely not the case. But He can physically make all the throws out there. I think for him, it's just more about being a little bit more consistent with his accuracy and being able to anticipate those throwing windows as opposed to kind of having to see them before he lets it rip. So, he's been focused on basically footwork, technique, kind of the cliches and stuff like that, but mainly anticipation in the passing game. Just, I think Mike Shula has been really good for him. Shula came in last year and was the assistant quarterbacks coach, as you guys know. Now he's taking on a bigger role this year as the offensive coordinator. But those two guys have really connected, and again, I think he's been good for Lenoris. So I think for him, it's just, man, putting together, like you see all the flashes. It's just, at times being willing to just live another down, I think. That's something Shula has really tried to ingrain in him is like, hey, this play does not have to be the highlight play every single time the ball is snapped. Let's live for the next down. Let's stay on schedule. The boring stuff that fans don't love to hear, but are obviously incredibly important in winning football games.
It feels like last year, though, he started to really start to believe in what he was capable of. Like you saw over the course of the season, his confidence level grow drastically. Is he the same guy mentally this year where he's kind of picked up where he left off with confidence and belief?
I think so. And, I think he's always kind of played that way, but as, with any guy making that big jump to another level, we saw it. If you look at the ODU game, he was hesitant. He admitted he was nervous. It might have been the first time he'd ever been nervous in his playing career. And, it did take, I think, a little bit of time for him to be like, okay, I'm still who I think I am. And, I think the big thing for him, too, just from like a mindset standpoint, is he's trying to be a little bit more of a vocal leader this year and kind of not just be the guy who goes out there and does it on the field, but truly kind of leads his teammates, in practice and in the, in the facility as well. So that's something that doesn't necessarily, and he'll admit it, come like naturally to him. He's not a huge rah-rah guy, and you don't really have to be, but I do think just in terms of taking over not just the offense but the entire program and that leadership role is something he has been focused on this offseason. But the thing about Lenoris is the more you're around him, you'll realize, man, this kid just has this kind of innate, very quiet confidence to where a lot of times I don't think he feels like he has to say anything. He's just going to go show you what he's going to do. And he has incredibly high expectations for himself. And, I don't think he'd ever say this in a press conference, but he has incredibly high, like, national championship level expectations for the program, which obviously is what you ultimately want from your competitor, from your quarterback.
I'm with you. Watching the Netflix deal too, you got a little bit more of that from him, a little more behind the scenes of him, and I've had a chance to talk to him before games and obviously sit down with him a few times, but he continues to impress the more you're around him, the more you see him. So we appreciate the time today, Wes. Great stuff, great insight to South Carolina, what's happening so far through fall camp. We'll have you back soon, discuss it more.
All right, guys, I appreciate it and love what y'all do, so I definitely appreciate the time today too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wes. Wes Mitchell for Gamecock Central, part of the On3 Sports Network, at Wes Mitchell GC. You can follow him on Twitter. All right, so before we go to a break, Wes mentioned national championship aspirations for Lenora Sellers. Don't know if you can get a national championship ring, G-Mac, but you can get a lot of other rings at Bromberg's.
Yeah, Bromberg's is where I've been going for a very long time. I always appreciate everything I receive when I walk in the door. And it's not even just the jewelry that I purchase. It's really the experience that I have when sitting there talking with friends of mine that are sales staff, seeing the selection, going through the options, and helping me out. And right now they're actually upgrading the Mountain Brook Village store to better accommodate their customers. It's just going to be a next level experience. It always is when you shop with the very best, a company that's been in business for nearly 200 years. That's time tested and proven over the course of multiple generations that they will serve this community and they will serve the people of this community. So highly recommend going and checking out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, speaking of national championships, that has been a topic of conversation around the SEC. Some by folks who we may not expect. We'll let you hear that next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:18, Friday, August 8th, right here on Jox 94.5. Appreciate you guys being with us. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX will get you in. You can text in 205-834-9450. A couple quick notes before we go into some national championship talk. Yesterday, GMAC, Jimbo Fisher says, still wants to coach. Says he's got a lot left to give.
And this surprises you why?
Only because he's got 75 coming his way. Other than that, 59 years old. I would have guessed older, by the way. I think I would have guessed older.
Coaches coach, bro. That's what they do. Like, coaches coach.
They coach and collect checks. That's what they do.
Well, I mean, coaches coach. Like, think about, for example, we have the adrenaline rush that's comparable to that of coaches, I think, on game day. Like, the excitement of doing a game, the excitement of all that. Like, imagine someone saying, yeah, you know what, Cole? Or imagine being able to do your job and choosing not to.
Yep.
Like, think about it. Well, could you do it? Would you like that? Remove travel, remove all that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you could take away all the negatives with what any of us do, you would consider that to be more of a positive, no doubt.
But I just, coach is coach. If you think you can still do it, why wouldn't you, is my thing. Like Jim Harbaugh once told me, and looked at me as if I was crazy for not getting into coaching. He goes, you're supposed to play as long as you can, then you coach as long as you can, then you die. That's what Jim Harbaugh looked at me in the eyes and said. So I kind of get it. So coach is coach, man. It's hard to remove that. So not surprised at all that Jimbo Fisher wants to get back in.
No, I don't think there's any doubt that he wants to. It's just a matter of, well, in that point in time, Greg, it becomes, what are you willing to accept? Because it's cool to say I want to coach, but is he sitting there thinking, yeah, I need a P4 job and a head coaching job, by the way. Like, he doesn't want to go coordinate offense, in Conference USA. He wants a head coaching job in the ACC or the Big Ten or the SEC or maybe the Big 12. That's where
really
it becomes complicated. I don't know. I don't know what's coming available. I don't know what his sales pitch is. I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to go that direction. So I have no idea. It doesn't surprise me that he wants to, but it's just, what's the situation that you're willing to accept, saying that you're going to go back into it? That's where I think there would probably be some questions. We mentioned national championships a few moments ago. And before we get to that, I want to kind of preface this with, I understand everybody wants to win. I understand everybody thinks they can win. I just wonder if certain discussions from certain people are what they need to be, should be, or what's called for. From Paul Feinbaum yesterday, this was Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia discussing some of their expectations this upcoming season.
Offense and defensively to go really put our foot forward and go win the national championship.
I'm not trying to act like I didn't hear what you said. I did, but you're deadly serious, right?
Yeah, I wasn't cracking the joke. That's the standard.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you national championship. That takes a great deal. I feel like I'm just having a little fun with you here, but that's quite a statement. And by the way, I've heard your coach say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, NIL, even the playing field. You know what I mean, for a lot of teams, and we feel like we got offensively and defensively our A game versus anyone's. Like, I like my team. You ask me who the best wide receiver in the country is, I'm gonna tell you someone on my team. You ask me who the best O lineman is, I'm gonna tell you someone on my team. Same thing with safeties, DBs, everything.
And best quarterback, would that be you?
You're looking at him.
So listen, I love the confidence. I love the confidence in your teammates. There's some that's just, some might say nonsensical or just inaccurate. But Jeremiah Smith's the best wide receiver in the country. He doesn't play for Vanderbilt. There's no two ways around that. There's not, like, Parker Brailsford's the best center in the SEC. He does not play for Vanderbilt. There's not another way to play it. Caleb Banks is the best interior D lineman in the SEC. He does not play at Vanderbilt. There's really not a lot of argument there. We're not even going to go back and forth with it. The standard, Greg, is where I kind of start to wonder, okay, like, what standard definition? Something established by authority, custom, or general consent as a model or example. That has not been put in place there. So, and listen, I was the one at media days that people laughed at when I said they're not going backwards this year. Vanderbilt's not going backwards, because there were a lot of folks I did interviews with, talked to, that said, well, yeah, but they're just it's Vanderbilt. I'm like, well, no, not that. You can't match up with their tight end. Their O-line has been addressed. They have a quarterback that runs their scheme extremely well. Defense gets everybody back. Maybe the most underrated running back in the league. So they're not going backwards, but where are you in having these type of conversations, saying these type of things when it hasn't been the standard, therefore cannot be?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with saying it. Like, to me, that doesn't bother me a lick. And frankly, it doesn't hurt anybody by expressing the confidence that you have in your own teammates. It's inauthentic, but that's fine. I mean, I really don't. It doesn't bother me at all. I just think it's the reaction that people get to a guy talking positively about his teammates and oftentimes elaborating how good his teammates are is not new. It's been like that forever. I mean, you want to brag on your guys. Why wouldn't you? doesn't mean that they're the best because it's inaccurate. But I mean, I think it's hilarious how people react so strongly to these things when all he's doing is just talking about his guys and talking about his team. Like, what should he say to that question that Paul just asked him? Like, no, you know, Paul, to be honest with you, we really would just want to go, if we can win 5, feel good about it. Like, we just want to go bowling.
I wouldn't throw out that winning the national championship is the standard at Vanderbilt, because it isn't. Like, it's
not at Vanderbilt.
It's factually inaccurate.
But it's it's what everyone, with the expansion of the 12-team playoff, it's what everybody wants.
Well, you just say that's our goal.
Everybody wants access.
Our goal is to win a national championship.
The losingest team in college football history made the playoff last year. Like, I don't blame anybody for having high hopes and aspirations.
No problem with that either. But when you say it's the standard, it's different. It's not the standard. It hasn't been. It can't be. Therefore, that is just a factually inaccurate statement. It's not the standard. Now, the new thought process of where we want the standard to be, okay, maybe. And every best player in the country doesn't play for your team. Like, I love the confidence in your teammates. You like them. But if you're going to tell me that so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so are the best, tell me why. Tell me why they're better than the others. You can't just say, like, I can't just walk around and say, yeah, we got the best radio show in America. Why? Because I said it. Things aren't real because you say them. They're just not. Like, hey, I got the best kids on earth. All right, why? Well, because I said so. It's not real. You can't just go around saying things and they're real. They're not. That's what I think I have a little bit of an issue with here is you can't just walk around and say things, and because you put a helmet on someplace, all of a sudden everything's real. That's not the way the world works. That's where I have a little bit of frustration with it. You want to have goals? Great. Say that's our goal. You like your guys? Say you like your guys. Don't go tell me you got the best receiver in the country, because we know you don't. That's just, sorry. You don't have the best off-the-ball linebacker in college football. He plays at Texas, in my opinion. So that's where it's just some of the confidence begins to come in as naivety and maybe even just a little lack of intelligence, to be honest with you.
Well, let's be real. Like, when listening to Diego Pavia in the past, has he ever reeked of, like, academia?
No, but it's just you should be educated in football. And, like, my major in college was football. I'm not afraid to tell people that. It just was. I felt like I was pretty well versed in football. Like, I watched Ricky Williams on game day on Saturdays. I didn't go around telling people Rudy Johnson was better than Ricky Williams. I may have liked him more or have liked him better. Like, we saw Orlando Pace highlights every day. I didn't go around telling people DeMarcus Curry was better than Orlando Pace. Because if I said that, I'd have been dumb when it comes to talking about football. And I didn't feel like I was. So it's cute, and it's beginning to come off as an act. And that's where I think the frustration for me comes in. Is like, now you're teetering on becoming a distraction to your football team. Because this act is, I mean, this is like, I'm being serious. Like, if The Rock sat down to talk about the UFL and having ownership in the UFL, and he did it in full character, like full The Rock character.
Actually, The Rock, not Dwayne Johnson. The
Correct.
Rock sat down.
You'd be sitting there going, this guy doesn't own a football league. This is the guy I saw on television, like giving The Rock bottom. Like, what's he talking about? It's beginning to come off as an act, and I do think that can begin to show as my thought process there would be, are your teammates going to continue to react to an act? Because we know what college kids react to, and it's usually being genuine. That's why Shane Beamer recruits so well. That's why people wonder, how does Jeremy Pruitt go inner city and recruit kids? He's who he is. He's genuine. Why does Sam Pittman recruit well? Because that guy's been the same guy forever. He's never changed. He's genuine. And I think that's what I begin to wonder is this act going to begin to run sour? It's already getting there in the media. Is it going to begin to run sour inside the facility? That's what I would be concerned about.
Well, it's always been an act to me. Like, I don't know. I've never, like, I like that he's kind of brash, and the fact that he's a bit of a breath of fresh air when a lot of these kids are trained to be robotic and not say anything. Like, it's kind of nice to have a guy that's willing to do things a little differently, but I've never sat there and really thought to myself, yeah, he believes that his wide receiver is the best receiver in the country. Like I never thought that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an act. I think it's bravado, but I don't think it's that dissimilar to what we see from athletes at every level. Guys saying I'm the best corner in the world when you're not. You're not even close. Like Darrelle Revis was 10 times better than Richard Sherman as like a lockdown corner. I think everyone in the league would tell you that, but Richard Sherman wouldn't. I mean, he's a great player. He's a zone corner. He's an eyes corner. He's a vision corner. He's great. Phenomenal at what he did. But if you want to go like best lockdown guy, like it was definitely Revis. But it was a constant debate, and as a result, Richard Sherman got a ton of publicity, and as a result has landed himself a pretty nice, high-paying job covering the sport by being outspoken. Like no one's putting guys on TV that are like, oh ho hum, I'm just doing the best I can. Like, oh, I'm trying my hardest. No, like if you come out and say I'm the best, people might believe you nowadays. That's the way things go. So I can't really blame him for taking that approach.
Okay. Gusty Goose Group, they think they're the best, but they also have over 850 Google reviews that are of 5 stars to glean on and say this is why we think we're the best. Also, they can talk about how they've served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Also, since 2012, the Gusty Goose Group has been recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. So it's not just Gusty telling you this and telling you how every agent he has is the best agent on planet Earth. They've got some proof there to back up why they are the best in Birmingham when it comes to getting you in the home that you need or getting your home sold. Call 205-542-1996 today and see what the Gusty Goose Group can do for you. That's 205-542-1996 or visit GustyGoolsGroup.com and start packing. All right, let's talk Arkansas. We mentioned Georgia's group of weapons. We're wondering what Arkansas is going to look like. We'll get some answers from Matthew Byrne next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, continuing to go around SEC camps and get some updates from what's happening in different places. We talked those weapons, obviously at Georgia and what that's going to look like. Major question coming out of Fayetteville is going to be what Taylen Green's weapons look like, because it's pretty much been overhauled. Matthew Byrne joining us now, covers the Razorbacks for Arkansas Online. You can follow him on Twitter at Matthew Byrne, the number 1. What are we hearing, Matthew, about this receiver core, this tight end group? Because outside of a couple running backs, I just don't feel like we know much of anything how what's going to be around Taylen Green is really going to look this year for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, basically the skill positions, all of them are looking new. Mike Washington figures to be that starting running back. And then the receivers, you got Omega Blake from Charlotte. He's been one of their top wideouts in camp. Raylan Sharp is a guy in the slot coming from Fresno State that's actually childhood friends with Taylen Green from Texas. So it's not as much of a bridge as you might think. He connected on a big touchdown pass yesterday on a blown coverage. And then that third guy as of right now is C.J. Brown, is an in-house guy, but it was Ismail Cece, who was a transfer from Stanford. He had a weightlifting accident, tore some ligaments in that wrist. He had surgery on that, so he's been out on the sidelines. But those are the 3 receivers you're really looking at. And then tight end, again, is new as well. It's right now, Rohan Jones, transfer from Montana State, has been taking the majority of snaps with the starters in their fastball starts.
Looking at just kind of all the new pieces, it feels almost impossible to get continuity, but you do have Bobby Petrino back, and it feels like there could be the next layer of what they're trying to be offensively with Taylen Green. So you referenced the wideouts, that being a huge question mark. I'm a little more concerned about what things look like along the offensive line. Are they going to be able to protect Taylen Green this year? They feel like they've made progress there?
Well, yeah, and I mean, just talking with continuity, it seems almost very, very difficult right now to have in the college landscape with so much movement. Eric Mateos is returning for his second year in offensive line. Seems like he's had a little bit more time to build out his line. Went and got Quay Russaw, a left tackle from Georgia Tech. Really liked his pass protect. And then right now, he said yesterday that they're working on the run protect. Fernando Carmona is an in-house guy, a starter, a veteran. He's going to be moving inside to guard. Still a little bit of a learning curve. They went out. They got Central Florida transfer Caden Kittler. And then on the right side, it's an in-house 3-man battle for the right guard. And Kobe Branham, the redshirt freshman, has actually been making big strides as of late. It seems like they're pretty high on him. So, I mean, it's kind of tough because when you're watching these fastballs, the pocket hasn't really collapsed much. They've done a great job of protecting the quarterbacks, but it seems like sometimes you might have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, that's the first drill that they're doing in camp. It doesn't really seem like, defensive linemen want to get through, but they probably don't want to kill their quarterback to start a practice. And yesterday was the first full day of full pads, and now is closed to media. So in a few one-on-ones this week, the offensive line has been winning over the defensive line. So it's a little bit tough because then you're like, hey, what do you sort of take from that? Are you happy with the offensive line and then equally unsatisfied with the defensive line? So right now it's pretty hard to tell. There's a few, but basically the main takeaway is that there's a few new guys that they're high on and then a few returners to build it out.
All right, so when you look at just Taylen Green individually, how do you expect him to make a leap year 2 under Bobby Petrino? It's part of me looks at this and says, I know Bobby can call plays. I know how talented Taylen is. I expect there to be some sort of leap, but then we go through all the things you just ran through, and Matthew, and I don't know if we're going to see that from him. What do you think the expectation is from this staff of how far Taylen Green can go as opposed to where he was a year ago?
Well, I mean, I would definitely be interested to see in how much he's able to share the ball with his receivers, just because Andrew Armstrong, more than doubled any other Arkansas receiver in receptions, yards, not as much touchdowns, but still. And that's something that they're big on. The wide receivers coach, Ronnie Fouch, is just in here a few days ago saying that, a Bobby Petrino offense likes to spread the ball around and sort of feed the studs. And Andrew Armstrong was such a stud far and away that you think that if Taylor's able to develop that relationship with Raylan Sharp as maybe his A1 guy, but still be able to pass and have other options, then it's just going to make him more deadly on sort of a zone read in the run game. So that's kind of what I'm most interested for, because obviously he does have that running threat as well, which you probably think could be bigger if he has other weapons beside him.
How about defensively? There have been good moments. There have also been moments where it's like, what the heck's going on? I feel like that group in the last 4 or 5 years has been so remarkably inconsistent. Some weeks they're great, a la Tennessee last year. Some weeks they gave up 700 yards rushing. It's like insane. I never really know what to expect. So overall, just top to bottom, how good do they feel about their defense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they themselves in-house are feeling pretty good about it. A big position battle right now that they're trying to figure out is cornerback. That's kind of their biggest target. Sort of the hallmark of that group is that they have some really big, heavy, guys in the secondary. Like a Larry Worth or like a Julian Neal, a Jordan Young, Selman Bridges. So there's a lot of rotation going on in the secondary and fastball starts. Other than that, linebackers is obviously going to be a big returning focal point, just with Steven Dix and Xavier Sori. I mean, those are really the main double-digit starters from last season. And then on the defensive line, Cam Ball anchors it. And then, there's a few question marks. There's two guys that, were with the Hogs last year, got to step up. And then they get Justice Boone, the end from Florida. That's also what's that going to look like. So right now, to answer that, it corner is the biggest thing, and then they'll fill stuff out. But they feel like they have a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions in that secondary and move around a lot.
Visiting with Matthew Byrne, talking Arkansas football. How healthy are the Hogs right now? Injuries a little bit of an issue last year, and with very little depth returning, and obviously some new players added through the portal. How's the health been so far through camp?
Yeah, so kind of the biggest thing to look out for is Caden Kittler, is the center I was talking about from UCF. He was a little bit banged up yesterday, which was basically a new development. But we knew going into camp that CC was going to be out. And Sam Pittman's thrown around words like probably done for the season, or, kind of likely to miss the season. So that's kind of a big loss. But other than that, I mean, saying other than that when it's a big loss, but really those are kind of the main two right now. And we'll keep an eye out for stuff as it goes through camp. Going to be at practice 7 later this morning.
What do you think is the biggest strength of the team overall?
Oh man, I think it kind of just all hinges on Talon at the quarterback spot. I think that's going to be with so many skill guys, with so many new skill guys, and him sort of being the anchor of this offense. I think it's going to come down to him. And certainly, I think he took strides in his first year, and that's kind of the biggest question. Is like second year Talon Green, second year Bobby Petrino in that system. But I think it's just going to be in determining how sort of like the season plays out. Like I think it's just going to be a tale of what wins. There's so many things almost going for you. Like, Travis Williams, third year as a defensive coordinator. Petrino, second year. A few other guys that are coming back in their second years. So you're saying, this is great. There's familiarity, there's comfortability here. But then on the equal opposite side, there's so many new pieces as well. So it's like, how does a new position, how does a new skill group fit within, a new Bobby Petrino offense, minus Raylan Sharp, who already knows the system, and how that's going to play together. So I think that's the biggest thing right now. Continuity is hard in college football, but I think that's the biggest question. But I think their strength is definitely Talon, and it honestly needs to be.
Matthew, we appreciate the time. Great insight to this Arkansas program that we have a lot of questions about. There's a lot of it that we have uncertainties with. A couple things we feel really good about, but just some unknowns there. And you cleared up a few as we've gotten here, reaching the halfway point of fall camp. We'll do it again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Matthew Byrne joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Again, you can find his work at Matthew Byrne, the number 1, or at arkansasonline.com, covering the Razorbacks. I don't know truly how much more clarity that brought, G-Mac. I mean, I think the weapon's still just going to be a massive question. If they can find a way to gel, if they can find a way to separate, make some plays for Taylor Green, specifically that offensive line, if they can find a way to go out and give him a little bit better protection, even though he's got that escapability, I mean, they can be scary. I don't think there's any doubt about it, that they can be a team that moves the football and is a problem for a lot of folks.
They're going to score. Like, I still, even with their weapons, those guys have played college football before. Like, Omega Blake's been around for a long time. I'm not that concerned about their ability to score. I just wonder, I mean, the secondary's been a problem for how many years now? 5, maybe? I mean, and I'm talking like real problem, where they had guys in the back end that were just major liabilities. So I think secondary, I think depth on the defense at all 3 levels is something that has me a bit concerned. But I do think they're one of the few teams that I know can move the football, because I do think their quarterback's got a chance to be transcendent this year if he takes the strides necessary to become a little more consistent thrower and a little better decision maker.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be all right.
All right, so it's going to be a fun year in Fayetteville with that schedule. Like we said, they got a chance to get off to a good start, and then that would provide some massive home games as you would near the halfway point of the season. So I'm interested to see. I know you always want to go, what's the situation with Sam Pittman? But I kind of want to keep these camp updates about the team, about the players. But sometimes I do wonder from folks that cover the team, like, what do they realistically think is going to happen with Sam Pittman? Is he going to be on the move after this year? I don't know what the situation is going to look like, going to be. I don't know where you would go if you were Arkansas based on what he's already proven that he has the ability to do. And we all thought they'd be way ahead of the game in NIL, and it doesn't feel like they really are, which just makes it even more of an intricate case study. What we do know, Greg, is if you need to move out of your home into a new home, Crocker Moving Services can help.
Yeah, they're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. Look, I've been using these guys for a long time. I've always had a great experience. I'm always very, very grateful to the experience I have when I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about making a move or thinking about having to move some stuff around, or we purchase something, need to get it to our house. It's great to know that I have a trustworthy group at Crocker Moving Services that can get me taken care of. Highly recommend going and checking them out online. CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, we'll get to a break, come back a little bit more around fall camp here in the SEC next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. And as we continue going around these different camps, G-Mac, and you look at what's been proven, what hasn't been proven, as it pertains to Arkansas, who we just referenced, what do you feel like you want to hear, need to hear, coming out of Fayetteville before this season starts that might increase your confidence in what they have the ability to achieve this year?
Well, I'll tell you that in a moment for sure. But first, I want to tell you about my friends at Bill Smith Buick GMC. They're the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champions of GMC dealers. They've done an amazing job for a number of years. They've won the national championship 8 times overall, but they've won 5 in a row. It's because the deals that they can give you on the lot, like $14,000 off a GMC Sierra SLT, like $5,000 off a Buick Encore GX, which is a sporty, economical SUV, can get you out for under $25,000. These are beautiful vehicles that can give you, for, in some cases, a ridiculous discount. So take advantage of those savings. 75% of their customers are repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com. But looking at Arkansas, I think the biggest thing for Arkansas is consistency. Like, they have had wild swings in inconsistency. Some days they're great on offense. Some days they're lousy on offense. Some days they're great on defense. Some days they're lousy on defense. I think over the last 4 or 5 years, the ceiling of Arkansas can go with anybody, but the floor of Arkansas can lose to anybody. And that's what I've had a hard time in evaluating this program. I know they've had a lot of turnover. I know they've had a lot of different challenges. I know they've had inadequate personnel in some spots. But the ebbs and flows and consistency to me make it almost impossible annually to predict what you're going to get from that team. I mean, is it fair to say for you, Cole, they were the most inconsistent team in the SEC the last couple of years?
I mean, they're up there. I think when you're talking about that team a year ago, with what they were and what they were when they were good, what they were when they weren't good, I think that's what really starts to happen when you're leaning too much on individual players. And Taylor Green was a guy that carried the offense and at times carried the team. So where was your traditional run game? As you stated, at times it would show up, it looked great, they'd get downhill. At other times, it just wasn't present. Some of the receivers, whether it was drops, route running, defense, giving up big plays, sometimes pass rush looked great, sometimes it didn't. So I'm with you on the consistency portion of that, but you still got to have big players make big plays. And if you have a quarterback like Taylor Green with what he's capable of, it can't just be scrambling, running around, running for his life, making those plays. There's got to be a consistent way to force a defense to be certain things if you're going to be able to go out and continue to do that. The schedule, not as bad as it has been, though, for the Razorbacks. Alabama A&M, Arkansas State. That game at Ole Miss just continues to feel like it looms large. I'd tell you the one I'd be scared of is if you beat Ole Miss and then you go to Memphis the next week, because then you have Notre Dame the following week. That's the one that would make me nervous if I was an Arkansas fan, because that Ole Miss game's massive.
Get Ole Miss?
Do I think they can?
Yeah.
Yeah, this year I think they can, because I think they can score on them. So if Travis can find a way to, let's just say, confuse an Austin Simmons or force him into some things that maybe gives them a couple of turnovers, then yeah, I think that could be a problem. So, you got Justice Boone coming in who might be able to help you off the edge. You have a really strong core of linebackers that when they're asked to blitz can find ways to get to the quarterback, whether that's Dix, whether that's Sorey. And I think you'll probably see, Larry Worth is a safety that can essentially come down in the box and be a linebacker. So I think you'll get a lot of pressures there. The ability to cover, I don't know. You got a new nickel, you got a new corner. I don't know what that group's going to look like as much on the back end, but you find a way to pressure Austin Simmons and kind of put points on the board, which I think they'll be capable of against that defense. Yeah, they can catch them. And then if you do, you could be looking at a 4-0 Arkansas team with Notre Dame coming to town, which would just be awesome. That atmosphere in Fayetteville would be incredible. But that game also just as big for Ole Miss because they get off to a good start. They could be 4-0 with LSU coming to Vaughn Hemingway. More SEC talk next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Final hour of the show, Friday, August 8th, 9 a.m., Jox 94.5. Listen online, joxfm.com. Tell your home smart speaker to just enable the Jox skill. You can listen that way. And don't forget, you can watch us live each and every morning on YouTube. Search Jox 945.
I'll celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox Kickoff Party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. To win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, text the keyword Barons and your full name to 205-834-9450. That's keyword Barons, like the Birmingham Barons, and your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit joxfm.com.
Thanks for clarifying Birmingham. I don't know what other Barons we would be referencing, like the Red Baron. What other Barons would we be going with there?
I don't know. I had a
Barons
teammate named
Financial
Baron
News and Investment.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's some like in the United Kingdom. There's some type of like big baron. You got oil barons, all over the state of Texas. Like there's all sorts of. So it's good work there by Damien. I think
Got that in there.
Birmingham.
There it is. All right. We've talked some South Carolina today. We've talked a little Arkansas today. We talked some Alabama. Heard from Kane Womack earlier today. Auburn wide receiver Perry Thompson yesterday discussing kind of what he's worked on and what he's improved on this offseason.
Just a lot of more crafting my work, more of just technical stuff and routes. But I feel like everything, I'll say like last year, it went from like a 4 to like a 8, 9 now. So I feel a lot better in that.
Also discussing kind of Hugh Freeze getting after him a little bit and how the team and he are taking to that.
I feel good. He ripped me in the butt earlier about that. He was like, you got to hold me to a high standard, like you said, because breakout year for me, and just can't let no slack go by. So I just got to play. I got to keep myself to a high standard every day we come out to practice.
So Freeze has been kind of up and down this week, Greg. He felt really good about yesterday's practice. The previous practice felt terrible about. Didn't like the effort. Said the guys kind of had heavy legs. Didn't feel like the intensity was where it needed to be. I know sometimes this is just you're going to get to a point in camp where the coach needs to get mad and feels like he needs to call guys out. How have you felt just about what you've heard from Hugh Freeze, even though it's been a little bit of a roller coaster through fall camp so far?
Well, I feel okay about it. Like we talked about yesterday. I mean, Hugh was outspoken about the effort they got in camp. A couple days ago in practice, and it not being up to the standard that they want from a daily basis with how they're approaching practice. So I think when you're having that kind of honest dialogue, that's helpful. It gives the players a real expectation of how things are supposed to go, and it hopefully will kind of extinguish anything that would happen to make sure that lack of effort doesn't permeate to the next practice and the next day and basically take over the week, what have you. So I think everything I've heard so far feels pretty positive. They're happy with Jackson. He's being more decisive. He's being more aggressive. I think they're happy with how things are progressing defensively. Like, sounds like it's been a good camp so far. Plus, no injuries that I've heard of up to this point that appear to be significant, whereas in other places, a la Florida, they've had a couple guys go down already.
They have been healthy. That's a real positive. That hasn't been the case at a lot of SEC camps. And you kind of made fun of me yesterday for the aggressive comments that I maybe took a little bit too serious or took a little bit too far from Hugh Freeze. But I think you got to find the little things that of your biggest concerns and sort of ask yourself, are those going to point to where you want them to be or need them to be if you're going to have confidence with that team? And that's one of them. Hearing about Jackson Arnold, not just being more decisive, but being aggressive, attacking. And that goes back, Greg, to what you said about that mindset that he may have been trapped in last year playing for a defensive-minded coach. Hell, he told you and I in media days, I'm not trying to rip anybody. I'm not trying to direct this at another coach. He goes, but that's accurate. Like, that's very real. That the mindset from a defensive-minded coach usually is, don't screw this up. Don't make a mistake. Don't hurt our field position. Don't turn the ball over here. As opposed to now it's attack, go get it, make this happen, make this throw, make this play. And I imagine, Greg, as a quarterback, that can be a huge relief when you go from one to the other.
Yeah, really big. I would think. I mean, look, I only ever played for defensive-minded head coaches in college and in the NFL. So I never played for an offensive-minded head coach. Never really got that experience. Did in high school, but that was different. I mean, it was just, I don't view that the same personally because we're just better than everybody. We were just better than every team we played. I mean, it's just pretty simple. So, didn't require that delicate balance. I mean, it was. I mean, we won a lot of games. So I don't feel like the lessons I learned having played for an offensive head coach in high school had as much of an impact on me. But having played for Nick Saban, Rex Ryan, and then Marvin Lewis, and while I did get 1 year with Mike Shula, I was drinking water out of a fire hose. I mean, I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was a freshman that was trying to figure out the offense, and frankly, it was kind of structured like an NFL practice to begin with. It was just kind of strange. So I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you what that would do. I would think it'd be beneficial to have a coach tell you, keep the pedal pressed, like keep it going, as opposed to, hey, pull back a little bit. You're trying to do too much. But I also think that can be a hindrance too if you get a false sense of security about what you can pull off throughout the game.
I imagine though that would help you more if you didn't necessarily have an assertive personality, which I don't think he does. And that's not a knock, not a bad thing, not a negative. I don't think that's him. I don't think he is boisterous, loud. I don't think I don't think he has much of a general attitude outwardly, so to speak. Now internally, who knows? We don't really know what that is, but part of that reset process that has to take place. And when you hear these things about Jackson Arnold, Damian, is that the biggest question you need answered for Auburn heading into the opener of not only can they get Baylor, but can they be in contention for a college football playoff berth?
Yeah, I'm with it. It's because to me, the one thing that Jackson Arnold lost last year was confidence. And, maybe going to Auburn was the reset that he needed. And, Greg, you played quarterback. Most of it is between the years. Like the physical stuff, the physical assets, like we know he has the ability. It's all mental for him. So as long as he can get over those hurdles, I think Auburn should be expected to win a lot of games.
Greg, I actually had somebody the other day, we were going back and forth about this Jackson Arnold thing, and they said, I said something similar to what Damian said, and they asked me, and this is a person that has a decent football IQ. You really think he's got that much ability? You really think the talent level's that high? And I don't know. Maybe some people don't realize, but haven't watched enough. I don't. How do you describe the God-given ability as a quarterback that Jackson Arnold has?
I mean, I think he can throw it. I think he's very talented. I don't think he's necessarily like Vince Young. I mean, I don't think he's. But I think he's got some like Sam Ehlinger qualities. That's who he kind of reminds me of, who is a rock solid college football player. Maybe a slightly stronger arm, but when I watch him, I see some Sam Ehlinger. I think except Sam Ehlinger was a bit of a bulldog. A guy that was kind of a grinder and a guy that was going to persevere through whatever adversity that might transpire on the football field. And maybe that's where Jackson Arnold will get. It just wasn't there in his first 2 years in college football. So I think he's plenty talented to do all the things that you want him to do. But as far as being, first overall pick, probably not. But I do think he's got plenty of gifts and plenty of ability to do some nice things.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we even have to sort of asterisk that with when we talk about guys being college football players. That's what we're referencing them as. We're not. If we say Jackson Arnold has a boatload of ability or all the ability he needs to be super successful in college, it doesn't automatically mean we're saying that he's going to be the number one pick or that he's going to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL for 20 years. And there's a lot of people that try to group that together. It's not necessarily where we're going. I think he throws the ball better than Vince Young, personally. I mean, I think he's got a more consistent release. I think he spins it better. If they both stood there and saw who could throw it the furthest, I don't think it would be very different. I think he throws a more accurate deep ball. Now, as far as, who do you think's faster, Vince Young or Jackson Arnold? I'm dead serious. I mean, it's close, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Being Vince Young, long strider.
Right.
So
yeah, he's a strider.
Jackson Arnold probably going to have
he's
the 10-yard split.
Look as fast.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold probably win the 10-yard split. Vince Young might win the last 10 yards. But it's going to be close. Now, just awareness and ball player capability, that's Vince Young.
Yeah.
Like that, none of us are going to doubt that. I mean, dude he just knew what to do and when to do it. And there's a lot of that's not coached. That also can be God-given, and Vince Young had that. So that's where I think the biggest separator would be. But I was surprised that, and I have been a lot of times this offseason, of how many people, like we went to Decatur last weekend, Friday, for one of my sister-in-law's kids' birthday. And one of the friends of the family that had come over, he was asking me about Jackson Arnold. I said some of the same things. They're like, so you think he has that much talent? And I'm just like, why are people surprised by this?
Right.
I understand that the on-the-field success has not been what maybe that part of it sounds like, but the ability is there. And it's odd to me that some people doubt that, because that to me is easily seen. He just hasn't been successful with it, with the situation that he's been put into. So I don't know, G-Mac, is that surprising to you that people don't really believe or know that Jackson Arnold does have that kind of ability?
No, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I think he's very talented. But I also wonder, let's be real, how many people have really watched him? Honestly.
Fair.
Like, I really want to know that. They watched him against Tennessee last year. Didn't play well. Didn't go well. Eventually got benched. They watched him play against Alabama, but most of the damage done in that game was on the ground. How many other Oklahoma games were people watching last year? Seriously.
Yeah, no,
that involved him. I'm not talking about Auburn game, because that was Hawkins.
Right.
I'm talking about the games that he started and played. How many people watched him?
The answer is very
few.
I'd love to give you the LSU game, but I think that was probably a weekend where there were a lot of other games that had a lot more interest. So probably not even that one.
No.
Yeah, it's fair. So not a ton. But if you're asking us what kind of ability he's got, it's a lot. And I don't think anybody here on this show would play that down. And the problem is, when you say that, people immediately say that you're saying that he's, the next Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray, or he's going to be as good as so-and-so. And it's just, it doesn't have to be that we think he's going to win the Heisman. We just think that he's got the ability to potentially go out and be a good college football player. Golden Domer wants to.
People hear talent, and they automatically think, "Oh, he's great." That's not true at all. Like, there is a huge difference between being talented and being good. Like that to me is, I think, what's amazing, that people cannot connect those dots. I remember a couple years ago, I was doing a radio show, and people asked me who's more talented, Jamie Newman or Mac Jones. I said Jamie Newman's more talented. Still is. Not as good a player.
Still is.
But the guy was an absolute freak. He was unbelievable. Like, you just watch him throw the ball and watch him run. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, tell me who's more talented. Joe Milton or AJ McCarron?
It's not close.
Not close. Who'd you rather have in college? Like, AJ McCarron by a mile.
Also
he's a
not
better
close.
player. You know what I mean? Like it to me, it's amazing that people can't differentiate talent versus quality of play. Like, having all the talent in the world doesn't make you a great player. Being a great player does require you to have talent, but it's not the other way around. Like, the most talented quarterback I've ever seen with my own two eyes, by a mile, was Jamarcus Russell. The most talented guy I've ever seen. And he's not going to be wearing a gold jacket someday. He's the best arm I have ever seen with my own two eyes. Throwing it. And he had a lackluster, and I know you can point to a million other reasons why his NFL career didn't materialize. But, talent does not mean you're going to be great. It just means you have a chance to be great if things go into place. Because seldom do you have no talent and are good. You have to have talent to be good. But just because you have talent doesn't mean you are good.
No, I would agree. Golden Domer wants to chime in. He's been on hold for a minute. Domer, welcome into the show.
Top of the morning, boys. We're right around the corner.
Yep, we're getting close.
Now, Greg, I just want to let you know, man, the word on the street on Twitterville, Greg McElroy is an undercover Notre Dame fan. Just trying to let you know.
I don't even know if it's undercover anymore. It's pretty well established. My kids actually have Notre Dame paraphernalia.
Embrace it, man. Look, embrace it. Look, you can't help it. You're redheaded. Look, you're redheaded. You're pale. You were born to be a Notre Dame Fighting Irish, man.
I'm not as pale as you think, but yes, that's fair. Redheaded, accurate. Freckles, accurate. But this time of year, Domer, I got to go out there and get some sun. Catch some rays.
Yeah.
You get it?
Look, I must come. Look, this is true. Now, look, something else. Now, you've been real high on Auburn. You're always very optimistic about Auburn. I think you even said if you could, you would put them in your top 20 this year. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think I have them in the top 20. Yeah.
So you got Auburn 20, you got Notre Dame number 3. You're trying to make some Alabama people mad, my friend.
He does that anyway.
5.
So
I got
But
Bama
look,
5. I feel like
I'm
that's a
gonna be
pretty good
honest with you.
spot for him.
I'll be honest with you. I think you're a little high on Notre Dame. I'm not going to push back too much. I think you're astronomically high on Auburn. I'll be honest with you. I cannot. I just there's no, in my opinion, and you have the right to your opinion. I don't think there's any actual reason to actually think that Auburn is top 20. I mean, I know we can keep on thinking and keep on hoping, but at some point in time, guys, Auburn's got to produce on the field. I mean, they have not been good in a very, very long time. And I just don't know that you can point to very much to say that we think it's going to be different. I mean, there's teams that have proven it on the field that we're not even talking about in the top 25 that have proven playmakers.
Who has
come
proven
back.
it on the field that's not in the top 25?
More than Auburn, 75% of the Power 5. I mean, honestly, Cole, who hasn't proven more than Auburn? That's the better question.
With this,
who has not proven?
With this roster, I think is the difference in where you're not referencing.
But
Like
they've
you
had a
can't just
decent
say
roster,
that
Cole.
this is the same thing with Penn State this year. Is that
All right.
James can't win the big one? James hasn't had this roster.
But Penn State's been somewhat decent, Cole. Auburn's been terrible. I mean, honestly, Cole, they have been terrible. And for us, I mean, when's the last time they won? I mean, what, they lost 5 games? How many years in a row now? And then now we think they're going to be top 20?
Well, but hear me out for a second. Hear me out for a second.
All right.
I think to be in the top 25, you probably got to go 8-4, right? I think that's pretty fair assessment. You go 8-4, you're in
right.
the top 25. I think Auburn can get to 8-4 this year. And tell me who you have more confidence in. Like, who's got a higher ceiling? And this year's, this, frankly, right now, Domer, you look at teams 16 through 30, it's kind of
It
interchangeable.
could go anywhere.
I mean, it could go in
I'll
any
be honest with
direction.
you,
Like,
and
you
you
can make
may
a
think I'm
strong
crazy.
case. You can make a strong case for Louisville. You can make a strong case for SC. You can make a strong case for Utah.
Very.
You can make a strong case for Oklahoma. You can make a strong case for Baylor. You can make a strong case for Auburn.
I'll be
Then you
honest
make a
with you.
strong
If you
case for
put them
Iowa
on a
State.
neutral field, I think you put them on a neutral field. Some people are probably going to take a deep breath when I say this. I would take Navy over Auburn. Navy knows who they are. Navy has a system. Navy has a coach. Navy has one on the field. I think
Against
we're not
who?
talking about Navy. They beat Oklahoma. The guy
Against
y'all were
who?
talking about, the Vince Young. Think they beat them, did they not? Against
What
them.
year are we talking
When he's
about?
playing for the Titans.
Navy. I saw Navy and called a Navy game last year involving Notre Dame, and let me just tell you, the gap that exists between Navy right now and the Power 5 teams that they would face is enormous. Look, they got a
I
great
think
culture.
Notre Dame
They
would've
have
probably
great.
done that
They have a
same thing to
great
Auburn.
system.
Hey, just hold on a second, Greg. Domer. Navy lost to Rice last year.
Okay. You
So-
may start naming the teams Auburn's lost to? Auburn is not good, guys. They're not good.
But
There's
you're
no
telling us
reason
how
to think they're
good Navy is. They
I thought
lost
Navy
to
went to the
Rice,
field.
one of the worst perennial football teams in the last 20 years.
Notre
JT
Dame lost to
Daniels.
Northern Illinois. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. It happens. Did Navy not beat Oklahoma? Well, did I miss that? Did I imagine that?
Last year?
Yeah, did they not play them in a bowl game, or am I crazy?
Yes, but I mean, come on, man. Like we know what bowl games are, and we
no,
love
but
bowl games.
Auburn-
But like,
But Auburn has those recruits, though, those stars, man. You know, they all in long. On the field, they don't know who they are, guys. Navy knows who they are. When you line up, they know who they are. They got an identity. They have a culture. I would take Navy head to head. I'm sorry.
Good.
I've seen them win.
take them then.
Okay.
Take them. I'm sure you can get great odds on Navy to the playoffs right now. Go for
Well, I know this. What were the odds Navy versus Oklahoma? I think they were about a 13-point underdog.
You and I both know
Half
that
the
bowl
roster
games,
was
bowl
gone.
games are
Like-
Talking
bowl
about bowl
games do
game.
not count, dude. Like, I'm sorry.
I know, but
love
okay,
you.
that's fine. That's fine. We can say that. But Auburn on the field, guys, it's almost like we just forget what they do. It's like every year we're like, well, I think Auburn might actually surprise. I don't know if you remember, Greg, but 3 years ago I told you there were some dark, dark days coming for Auburn football. And you said you think they're a program on the rise. I think you dramatically overrate them. I have no idea why. I just don't think Auburn is good in any way, fashion, or form.
Okay. Thank you for the call.
Upside. I mean,
See
I
ya.
take the upside. And last year, frankly, I mean, they were really close in a lot of games last year, and they were their own worst enemies. So I'm banking on those things getting cleaned up this year. This team wasn't that far away last year. That's I think part of the reason they allowed the Cal team to beat them twice, which was stupid. And I think if you were to ask Hugh Freeze right now, he would tell you, yeah, probably shouldn't have played the guy that I end up playing who can't play. And he goes out and puts him in a hole against Arkansas. That game had absolutely no reason. He could have built up Peyton Thorne's confidence level by starting him against God knows who there, the game in between. And then he has a full head of steam going to Arkansas, lose that one. He makes a critical error against Oklahoma. That game could have looked differently. They're up 11 in the fourth quarter. I mean, like last year, they were kind of a snake bit team. And I'm not making excuses for them. By all means, it's Auburn, for crying out loud. But they were a bit of a snake bit team. And I'm banking on those things being cleaned up this year. Could it absolutely blow up in my face? 100%. But I think Baylor's a top 25 team going into the season too. And they haven't done much lately either. I know they won 6 in a row to finish the season last year, but 2 years ago, they're terrible. They get off to a 2-4 start last year. I think they're better.
What has SMU done the last 20 years? I don't think last year is necessarily always an indicator of future results. Like, I think SC is a top 12 team this year. Like, that's really high and probably a bit crazy in some people's eyes. But guess what? Like, I'm banking on the upside. I think Ohio State's the 8th ranked team in the college football. People think I'm nuts because, they're top 3. Well, how do you know? There's too many new people. There's too many new faces. Recruited well, great, but so did Michigan. And they were 6-5 going to the last game of the regular season last year. So I don't know, man. I'm taking the upside in a lot of these cases, and I think Auburn's got a ton of upside. Now, situationally, they got to be better, but I think they got a chance to be pretty good. I just think we're so far past what you were last year is what you are this year with how rosters have changed and morphed and adapted. I mean, you talk about last year's Auburn team. We know that there were struggles and poor decisions made at the quarterback position, and we've labeled it with if the entire offseason. This kid figures that part of it out from a talent perspective. There's not a ton you take before him, so it can change things in a hurry. Still got to go happen. Still got to make it happen. We'll make Andrew Bone happen on the show next, right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. I'm going to go right to the Higginbotham hotline now. Talk to Andrew Bone about Alabama's fall camp. And an interesting write-up on Bray Hubbard that you had recently, Andrew. A guy on that side of the football that not a lot of people talking about. Not a lot of people looking at to be either an impact player or somebody who can really help this defense take strides. Based on your conversations, why do you think he is going to be an integral part of this defense this coming season for Alabama?
Yeah, I think when you look back at last year when he jumped in the mix right after Keon Sabb was injured, I mean, he had an excellent year. I mean, he was outstanding. Those last 4 or 5 games of the year, made a big impact, but now we're starting to see that growth. And, not just from talking to Bray, but talking to Alabama defensive backs coach Mo Linquist the other day. I asked him, who were 2 guys who had really kind of taken, that next step, taking it to another level. And the first guy he mentioned was Bray Hubbard, from a leadership role, but also from a development role. Feels like he's going to be one of the biggest leaders on the defense this fall. And, you look back at Bray's career, he started out at Ocean Springs High School in Mississippi as a quarterback, was a 2-time Mr. Football Award winner in Mississippi at quarterback. Had never really played safety before. Came to Tuscaloosa, worked out at Alabama's football camp in front of Coach Saban, and they offered him a scholarship. He was a Southern Miss baseball commitment, but Alabama saw something in him that they thought a couple of years from now he might be a really good safety in this league. And we're starting to see that development. He's a really smart kid, pretty humble. I mean, he was just so honored that people were talking to him at media day on Monday, and he was one of the main guys that was up on stage. That all the media was surrounding and talking to him, and he loved it. But at the same time, he's trying to help his team. He's trying to help the younger guys learn their roles, and I think that they're going to have a outstanding secondary as we know heading into the season, and I think depth's really key there. But Bray is, he's really developed into, I think, one of the best safeties, not only at Alabama, but in the league.
Secondary, it was such a big question mark last year, Andrew. And now I think you can make a strong argument it is one of the best secondaries in the entire country. Does the staff seem to kind of feel that way as well?
Well, we saw Kane Womack talk about it last week. He said at the Tennessee game last year, they really felt like they had only about 5 or 6 guys that they could really trust to go out there and play winning football. And now there's a lot more. And I talked to Mo Linquist about that the other day. He feels really confident about that group, but he said, they also have to stay humble, and we get humbled every day at practice by going up against this wide receiver group. So I think, having those 2 units go up against each other every single day at practice has really made that group stronger. But you have some older guys in that room. You have veterans coming back. They were starting last year. Keon Sabb's back. Damani Jackson. A lot of guys that were learning the defense for the first time. But the fact that they have probably 8 or 9 guys that they trust right now that can go out and play winning football, I think that's been really key. And then you have some freshmen that have started to really make some noise in fall camp. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to go in there and be the second guy if somebody gets hurt, but I think a guy like Dejon Lee has really impressed them since his arrival earlier this year, and had a great spring, and he's continued to do well in training camp. They talked about Ivan Taylor, the safety, son of Ike Taylor, who came in and has really hit the ground running there. But I think the veterans, the depth right now is really key, and I would say it's probably the deepest, most talented room on Alabama's entire team.
Andrew Bone joining us, talking Alabama Crimson Tide. And staying on defense, we rolled through the defensive line a little bit earlier, and some of the individuals that maybe can step up, will step up. Are there some youngsters there, not just on the D-line, but also maybe in that pass rush spot behind Quay Russaw, because we have all the confidence in the world in him, that you feel like can make a bigger impact based on what you're hearing than maybe some of the depth charts are showing heading into the opener?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, Tim Keenan and James Smith are two guys that are coming back that a lot of people have high expectations for. I think the defensive line rotation, as we've seen with those really good Alabama teams during the Saban era, that they were keeping guys fresh, rotating a lot of guys in. Of course, a lot of those second and third team guys ended up being first round draft picks. I don't know if Alabama has a second and third team roster right now that are all going to be first rounders. But I think with Jeremiah Beeman, that's a kid that I really am very high on right now, coming into his second season. I remember when he came out of high school at 265 pounds. He's now 315 pounds, and it's not from being overweight. I mean, he's really developed well. I think Edric Hill is another guy that they're really excited about and really like his development. Now, I think on the outside, that's going to be kind of, some, I don't want to say it's question marks, but you're trying to, wait and see who is going to be that next guy, because about Quay Russaw, about LT Overton. Is Keon Keeley going to be able to take that next step and be the impact player that we kind of thought that he would be coming out of high school? And I think he's had a good camp so far, but you got to see it on the field. And then as far as the Wolf position, I asked Quay about that the other day, who's really kind of stepped up there. And he mentioned Yanze Pierre. This was another highly touted kid out of Eufaula High School a few years ago. He said he's really starting to understand the game. He said he's always been talented, but he's really understanding the defense a lot more. And I would say that about pretty much everybody on this Alabama defense. They were going into a new system last year with Kane Womack and learning a lot of new stuff. A lot of guys were playing with each other for the first time, and now you have so many of them coming back, playing together and understanding the defense and trusting each other a lot more and knowing what the guy next to them is supposed to do. I think that's going to make them a lot better. But like I said, I think as far as the defensive line, they feel a lot better about it, but still got to see once the product gets out there on the field.
When you look at the kind of the depth of the wide receiver room, we know who the top three are. That goes to be seen. We know that. You've heard some buzz about Latsier Brooks in the spring and throughout the summer. Sounds like he's a little banged up, but hoping he can get back to 100%. You hear buzz about Rico Scott. Like, what does it look like beyond the top three, and what do you think that pecking order has a chance to be?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get a lot of these guys reps this season. I mean, as you mentioned, the top three are pretty much set with Ryan Bernard and Horton, and I think Rico Scott. If he was about anywhere else, I think he would be either in that 1 or 2 spot, because he has really come on strong. The coaches were raving about him the other day from talking to them, talking to Mo Linquist, talking to DeMarcus Shepard, and even Ryan Williams said that that's the guy that he felt like has had the best summer and best fall camp. So Rico's certainly a guy that I think we're going to see on the field a lot. I'm interested to see Cole Adams, who started to kind of find a groove last year until he got injured. He's back to being 100%, so we're going to see him out there on the field. Jalen Hill is another guy that we're starting to hear more about coming off of his injury, but how's he going to be once he really gets into that live game action? But it's definitely a talented wide receiver room this season. Latsier Brooks that's the guy that everybody was talking about throughout the spring and summer, as you mentioned, but being out, this first week of practice, Coach DeBoer said it the other day that he didn't expect it to be a long-term thing, that he would be okay, but, missing these quality reps in fall camp, probably going to push him back a little bit. Still wouldn't be surprised if we saw him make some plays on the field this fall.
Visiting with Andrew Bone, talking Alabama football. I know another position that I'm interested to get your thoughts in, Andrew, hearing about maybe some up-and-comers and where they will be. I think Jam Miller has a breakout year. We saw a little bit of Richard Young last year, but where I like Dre Washington out of ULL, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the Cajuns. So the way I'm allowed to reference them. But where is the running back room as you've heard about it so far?
Well, we saw Ryan Grubb, really talk highly of Jam Miller the other day. I can remember back in the spring and summer, a lot of people were saying, is Jam going to be the guy? Or, is somebody like Daniel Hill or Richard Young going to take that spot? It seems like he has secured that one spot. And, you have Richard Young, you have Daniel Hill. These are guys that are 225, 240 pounds that can come in there and just be bell cows for Alabama's running back room. But, Washington brings a little bit of a different speed there. I mean, he's got the juice. He's got some wiggle. He's also 218 pounds right now. So you got some really thick, physical running backs in Alabama's room. I'm kind of interested to see, what happens with some of these other guys. Does A.K. Deere, an incoming freshman, number 2 running back in the country, does he get some carries? We're starting to hear a little bit of buzz about him. Kevin Riley, who came in last year, it seems like he's sort of fallen off from that, top group, but he's still there, and you could easily see him potentially getting some carries late in games. But it's going to be really interesting with that top 4 and maybe even 5. How many carries they're going to get a game. But it certainly seems like Jam Miller is going to get. I don't know. I think it's going to be the bulk, but I also see Daniel Hill, Richard Young getting plenty of carries, and you got to get Washington in there. Who's had a really good fall camp as well.
Andrew, we appreciate the time, man. Great stuff. Good catching up with you. Thanks for the insight on Alabama today. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up again soon.
Anytime, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. Andrew Bone with BamaOnline.com, part of the Rivals Network. Also at Andrew J. Bone. You can follow him on Twitter, updating us on multiple positions there at Alabama, Greg. And I don't feel like running back's one we've spent a lot of time on. You and I both have kind of been waiting on Jam Miller to bust out for a couple of years. I'm a big fan of Dre Washington. Do you have any feel on how the carries will be distributed, at least early in the season for Alabama?
I'd be surprised if there isn't a pretty heavy lean towards giving the other 3 guys 50% of it. So I could see Jam getting 50 and the other 3 guys situationally getting another 50. It's going to play out, I think, as far as touches, how they feel situationally, opponents. Do you feel better with maybe a guy that can wiggle, that can give you a little something in the passing game like Jam can? Or do you want a guy that's going to be the absolute hammer and just pound it? And even if it's 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, that's fine. But I think it depends a little on the offensive line. If the offensive line is moving folks, if the offensive line is opening holes, then you want Jam. But if the offensive line maybe is taking a little while to kind of create that continuity that you want, then maybe you need a guy that's just going to run up their back, then by all means, you do that too. So I think that's going to be something that's played out over the course of the season, but I could see it being kind of game by game, hot hand type of approach, and dependent on how the defense is trying to match personnel and what the defense wants. Or what you want to attack the defense with, whether it's power or versatility. Because Jam's versatility, the other 3 seem to be more power.
No, I would agree there. It's going to be a fun watch to see exactly kind of where this goes and what it looks like. I think a pretty high floor for the Alabama running back room this upcoming season. If you need new flooring, though, who should you call?
Shinar Flooring. They do an amazing job, and they have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tec flooring in stock right now. That Core-Tec flooring is pet-proof, durable, kid-proof, adds value to your home or business. Wherever you put it, it's going to be able to retain its value. It's going to protect your home. And Shannara Flooring will make sure they protect your flooring, your home as well. When they install that flooring, it's a hard job, but they do it better than anybody in the community. And right now, because of how much they have in stock, you can get $10 off per box from Shannara Flooring if you order that Core-Tec flooring. That Core-Tec flooring, $10 off per box, that's a great deal, and the savings can really add up depending on how much you decide to purchase. So go and check them out and lock in right now. You can get 12 months financing if that's the direction you want to go. Go to Shannara Flooring online by going to footandyou.com. That's footandyou.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll give you our Super Sofa Game of the Week and more next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. One thing I did want to bring up on the show today was preseason polls. There's been a lot of discussion about this recently. Coaches poll came out. We gave you kind of our like, don't like, too high, too low, teams that were missed. There's an interesting article up at CBS Sports now on preseason polls, good or bad for college football. And, Greg, it made me think about some of the individuals that we had a chance to catch up with during our seminar for ESPN getting ready for college football season, and some folks who have a lot of influence in the sport. Some saying that they think preseason polls are good. Others say preseason polls are dumb. Where are you on preseason polls? Good, bad for college football?
Good. It generates conversation and buzz. And as long as you don't allow it to impact the way you view teams, then it shouldn't be a big deal. Like, if a team comes out and you have them ranked in the top 8 in the preseason and they lay an egg week 1, guess what? Drop them and rank them accordingly. The biggest problem with the preseason polls is that people refuse to get off their preseason acknowledgement of a team's quality. That's why people have a problem with it. Because, oh, well, this team won, but they won close against an FCS team. Let's leave them where they're at. No, drop them if they look terrible. And if a team looks great that's not ranked, guess what? Rank them up there highly based on what they've done this season, not what they projected to do in the preseason. So I love them because it drums up interest, but I also acknowledge that far too many people in the polling world stick to their convictions about a team for far too long.
You don't need a poll to tell you how good Game Day Men's Health is. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, if you lack energy, Game Day Men's Health can help you today, and here's how they're going to do it. You go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now, sign up for the free consultation. You get the free PSA test, free testosterone test, and Game Day Men's Health is going to give you an idea of where your baseline health is. So they want to help you get the energy back, get the good night's sleep back, not have you feeling on edge, get rid of the brain fog. They can do all of that. If it's weight loss, they can help you there as well. Peptides now in stock to help you with multiple ailments. Your body stops making these over time. Game Day Men's Health wants to help you with that. Holistic approach to health and wellness. Minimal upfront cost from the programs that they offer. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and sign up for the free consultation. Damian, preseason polls in college football, good or bad?
I think they're good. Kind of like Greg said, it drums up the interest. And to his point, yeah, if a team that you project to be a pretty good team does not look well in week 1, yes, it's okay to shuffle everything around. It's perfectly fine. But I agree with Greg. It's worth talking about.
John, preseason polls, good, bad for college football?
I guess I would have to say probably bad. I'm there with y'all in that, yeah, if you think of someone that they're highly ranked and they lose an FCS team, yeah, drop them. But a lot of times they don't. They may drop them whatever a little bit, or they may kind of have them maybe kind of low to begin with, and then they get a decent win. And, oh, okay, so yeah, it kind of validates. And I would much rather maybe a poll come out in September after we've seen some action, seen some teams at least face each other. We can kind of get an idea. Then at that point, we don't have any preconceived notions, because right now a lot of people, perhaps justifiably so, are rather high on Texas, but they're also ready to have Arch, who has said he's not going to the NFL, have given him the preseason everything. But we all kind of know that, yeah, he's a good quarterback, but he's probably not the best in the SEC. But preseason, we're already kind of thinking that and kind of establishing that going in, and it's going to be hard-pressed for him to do anything that'll take that away.
Who said he's not going to the NFL?
Archie. His granddad.
Right. Archie said Arch's not going to the NFL.
That's what he said.
Okay.
Well, it's Manning. It's like drumline.
Not Arch.
One family, one sound,
all
one
the
voice.
same.
Arch didn't say it.
It's all the same. One voice.
Arch didn't say it.
Where are you at? Where are you at with preseason polls, Cole?
I think they're fine. I agree with you 100% that the biggest problem with them is people don't want to make movement. And probably a lot of that, as you also stated, is people don't want to admit that they were wrong about a team and can't say, well, I had Clemson in my top 5, and I know they've lost 2 out of the first 5, but you know what? I still think they're a top 5 team just because they don't want to be wrong about them. And I think especially early, it's okay to make those big adjustments, because then you can, if you need to hold on to a team after we've seen 4 or 5 games, it makes more sense to do that. Make the big adjustments early, which nobody really seems to want to do. like watching that Netflix show last night, I'm thinking about if people would have had South Carolina in their top 10, what would they have done after week 1 last year when they had to score late to beat Old Dominion?
Mm-hmm.
But probably not a lot of people. Probably not a lot of people had a lot of issue keeping them close to their top 10 at the end of the year. So it's fine. Move them around. But people get hung up on keeping a team in the top 5, top 10, and I do agree that that's one of the bigger issues. It might be an issue for you to get out to the Jox kickoff party if you don't know how to be a part of it. Damian, tell our listeners how.
Yeah, you celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox kickoff party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. To win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, text the keyword Barons and your full name to 205-834-9450. Again, the keyword Barons and your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit joxfm.com.
All right, when we come back, we give you our Super Sofa Game of the Week next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Final segment of the week, Friday, August 8th, 9:53, right here on Jox. Let's get you to our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the Week. Here's how this works. If you have not heard the show at this hour on this day before, we give you one game for the weekend. If you could only watch one, which one would it be? Tonight, only one of the preseason games is going to be on television, so that would be it. Cleveland at Carolina. Expected to see some extended Bryce Young time. Also, some of the rookies I'm interested in seeing. Tetior McMillan, wide receiver for the Panthers, drafted out of Arizona. You also have Princely Uman Mielen that's going to be there. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M for the Panthers. And then obviously Shedeur Sanders gets the start. Kenny Pickett hurt. Dylan Gabriel hurt. Every other quarterback hurt on the Browns roster. So Shedeur's going to get the start tonight, but you still get Dylan Sampson. You get Quinshon Judkins. You get Mason Graham. A lot of rookies on both of these teams I'm interested in seeing a little bit of action for tonight. So Cleveland at Carolina, NFL preseason, 6 p.m., NFL Network, my Super Sofa Game of the week. By the way, Carolina favored by 6 in that game.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Look
boy.
at you. Lay a bet.
Your total
Let's
32
do it.
and a half.
I dare you. Under. All right, let's get to my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the weekend. It's crimson versus white. It's offense versus defense. It's scrimmage number 1 for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I will be in attendance tomorrow as I will head to Tuscaloosa to see what the Tide look like. I'm really fired up about it, and I've tried to find other games, but I'm like, honestly, the thing I'm most excited about by a mile, yep, that'd be what goes on in scrimmage number 1 tomorrow there in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So, Bryant-Denny Stadium, scrimmage number 1, Alabama Crimson Tide on the field for the very first time. Pads popping. I'm going with the Bama scrimmage.
Is this open to the public?
No.
Oh,
But-
that makes perfect sense. It's
Yeah,
Super
invite
Sofa
only.
Game of the week. Then.
Invite only.
Yeah.
How you gonna work that Super Sofa on the sideline?
Oh, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna have a recliner right there in the end zone, dialed in.
I got you. Well, you know where I'm going. Preseason NFL, the number 1 overall draft pick in this year's draft, Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tomorrow at 6:30. Might have to dig a little deep to find it, but that's my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the weekend.
For me, probably the only time the Saints will be favored this year when they take on the
boy.
Chargers Sunday, 3 o'clock NFL Network. That's my Super Sofa Game of the weekend. You can find your Super Sofa or furniture for the entire home at TD's Fine Furniture, where Labor Day sale means markdowns up to 50% throughout the store, including markdowns throughout the Flex Steel store. TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton.
All right, there you go. That is this week for Mac and Cube. We're back Monday. Greg will give you updates from the Bama scrimmage. We'll give you updates from all around SEC camps as we will be. Are we in game week next week for week 0? Is that right?
No.
Another week. Well, we'll get you set for a whole another week. 3-man front, get you set for it next right here on Jox.